physically despite all odds. And to all our virtual participants connecting with us, I want to acknowledge you all for making it out to be part of this program. To all our partners, we recognize you. Like I said the other time, my name is Olusesan Okwade. I will be comparing this program today. We'll move straight to other programs like we have today. Please pardon us. I know in no distance time we all have access to the program of events. We want to have the welcome remark from the Coordinating Director, Corporate Governance and Inspections and Monitoring Directorate. Please join me as I welcome to the podium Mr. Titus Osawe as he gives his welcome address. Please, a round of applause for him. I'm sure we are a non-profit organization. We can share this thing. Share the clap and encourage those that are coming there.
Thank you so much. Okay, a very good morning to all of us. I know we have a time constraint already, so I'll just do what I'm expected to do here to welcome us. In doing that, we want to recognize the presence of leaders and the representatives of those that we have identified as stakeholders generally. I know here present we will have people who represent faith-based organizations, CSOs, and the like. We want to welcome you to this stakeholder engagement, which is certainly one of the very key aspects in our standard setting, code setting, code formulation, regulations, and all that is one very key part of the process. Of course, what we want to achieve here is a situation where all those that have been identified as stakeholders would have a voice in the final document that is coming out. And of course, to lay credence to that, we would want to know, I want us to know that even as Financial Reporting Council, every organization and even individuals, we do learn from, call it concerns that might have been expressed at one time or the other. And that is why in coming up with this code, we started the issue of stakeholder engagement even from the very beginning. That is coming up with a team that is made up of those that you can say are stakeholders. You know, a while ago, a team was asked to rise up for recognition. They are called the Technical Working Group. I just want us to know that as part of our engagement process, we actually put together a team that cuts across. In this technical working group, you have the faith-based organizations, you have the CSOs, you have the leg of government. I know a lot of us here, by the nature of what we do, we have things around SCOMUL and all of that. So we have, as part of this working group, the EFCC. So right from the beginning, we have seen engagement, collaboration as a key thing. And as you will hear from my executive secretary, chief executive, the issue of stakeholder engagement is one thing that FROC has taken very, very seriously. So I want to welcome all of us on behalf of the executive secretary, chief executive, Dr. Rabi Olowo, and of course the management. We are happy that you are here with us. It is something that we want you to speak to. Feel free to discuss, feel free to express your opinion, so that at the end of the day, the document that is coming will have everyone's interest properly represented. And so on that note, I'll say welcome. Let's have a wonderful deliberation. God bless.
Wait for that welcome address. We are making progress, and we want to have the keynote address and the opening charge by the Financial Reporting Council, our Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer. Please put your hands together as I welcome to the podium Dr. Rabi Olowo.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this very important occasion this morning. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, leaders and representatives of charities, religious groups, professional, educational, scientific, research, literary, artistic associations, social and recreational clubs, political and administrative groups and associations, trade unions, civil society groups, and various interest groups here present, who together operate in the not-for-profit sector industry as part of our national economy. Let me also take the opportunity to recognize the chairman and esteemed members of the Technical Working Group on the Nigeria Public Sector Governance Code, and as well as the Nigerian Not-for-Profit Sector Code. Other guests here present, my colleagues at the Financial Reporting Council, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great sense of responsibility that I stand before you here today to warmly welcome you on this occasion of our engagement with key stakeholders in the Nigerian not-for-profit sector industry. I appreciate your prompt response to our invitation and the sacrifice you've made of your time and your presence, physical and those attending virtually at this very important occasion. As we go into the speech or into the program, I'm sure we would like to re-echo and reiterate how important this stakeholder engagement is. There's a history to us, getting here today. The Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, as we have come to know, is the federal government agency that is mandated by law to carry out regulatory responsibilities on all aspects of financial reporting, from accounting to auditing to valuation to actuarial standards, now to sustainability reporting standards, and as well as corporate governance in Nigeria. And these bear great significance on the Nigerian economy, looking at the scope of oversight of the Financial Reporting Council. And you'll all agree with me that effective monitoring of adherence and compliance with extant laws, frameworks on financial reporting and corporate governance, which are embedded in IFRS, IPSAS, Sustainability Reporting Standards, as well as the NCCG 2018 that was issued by the FRC, are good corporate governance frameworks, which are key to institutionalizing transparency and rebuilding confidence of existing and potential stakeholders, investors, who are key players of diverse sectors of our economy. In response to the global move towards instituting good corporate behaviors, whether in private, public, or in the not-for-profit sectors, we believe that those charged with governance in these institutions, opportunities in due process, and also engaging a wider range of stakeholders. Only the code for the private sector was able to be implemented. But that is the reason why we are here today. So with benefits of hindsight and lessons from 2016, the council under a new board and management embarked on the code development journey again, because it is absolutely critical to our national life and also our international reputation and how people see us from far and near, which led to setting up of a technical committee under the headship of Mr. M.K. Ahmed, a role model in corporate governance practices, and the outcome was the successful completion and release of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, NCCG 2018, for the private sector. This acclaimed success, so far recorded both in the implementation and in compliance of the NCCG 2018 by private sector entities, gave the impetus to a new move by the council once again to develop codes for the other two very critical sectors, the public sector and the not-for-profit sector institutions. In February 2023, 2 distinct technical working groups were set up by the Honorable Minister as advised by the Council to develop the Nigerian Public Sector Governance Code and the Nigerian Not-for-Profit Sector Governance Code. This particular one, for reason why we are here today, is chaired by Dr. Joe Haber, a former Director General of the Bureau of Public Sector Reform, who has brought in his experience and also his commitment and passion, together with 17 other very incredible experienced members who have individual capacities and accomplished role model within the corporate governance industry to form the technical working group for the Nigerian Not-for-Profit Sector Governance Code. As the coordinating director has mentioned, this technical working group have representation from the key stakeholders. So, and that's why I'm absolutely delighted, and there's no reason for any surprises, because the people whom are going to be the subject of the code were part of the development of the code. Today is just a wider consultation, a wider stakeholder engagement, and that's why it's a public one, to say if there are other areas where we need to tick, there are other areas where we need to dot the I's and cross the T's, here is the time. The Nigerian Not-for-Profit Governance Code is a critical framework for enhancing transparency, accountability, and ethical conduct within the not-for-profit sector in Nigeria. According to the Transparency International Index, corruption is the abuse of entrusted power and privileges for private gain. If you check the Corruption Perception Index of our country, we rank about 154 out of 180 countries. In a country where this sector, your sector, plays a vital role in providing social services, advocacy, development initiatives, the draft code, I believe, will and shall help organizations operate with integrity and in line with best practices. The code establishes guidelines for board composition, financial management, sustainability practices, stakeholder engagement, fundraising, reserve management, and the much more recent issues of diversity, equality, and non-discrimination. These are key issues that we all agree to. It's just to put this together to say this is going to be our way of life, this is going to be the way we will operate. And that's why I believe that other than getting input, we won't have much of a problem to implement all of this. The technical working group, in putting the document together for use by organizations concerned, consider the global concepts of good governance and recommended guidelines that promote good governance practices and standards of accountability, transparency, and effective governance, which they can aspire to. So they looked at, from far and near, how is it practiced in the West, in the South, in the global South, and what is the imperative for our own local terrain. All of this were put together, and that's why, with the representation of the technical working group, we absolutely believe that we have all the experiences, all the interest therein. And this is another opportunity where the public can understand what is being done and can also give their own input into the topic. So with all this, it becomes even very important as the not-for-profit sector, which is often referred to as the benevolent sector, or the third sector, or the civil society sector, plays a strategic role in the success of the Nigerian economy. By applying the principles and the recommended guidelines this code will champion, it is our hope that the not-for-profit sector governance code will enhance the fulfillment of the overall mandate of organizations so that they can achieve their intended outcomes for their communities, for their citizens, for their stakeholder groups, as well as render better services to users and a wider range of stakeholders. We also believe that it will be a useful tool for board and management of organizations to operate in an effective, efficient, transparent, and ethical manner. We also believe that it will promote a culture of trust between organizations and their stakeholders and create incentives that reward those organizations who commit to embracing high standards of public accountability and good stewardship of resources entrusted to them. And finally, would enhance the sustainability of those organizations into the foreseeable future. Moreover, the draft governance code contributes to the professionalism of organization activities for the not-for-profit sector. It encourages NGOs, charities, and the not-for-profit sector to adopt a more structured and strategic approaches to their work. This in turn enhances effectiveness and impact, as well as a well-governed organizations are better equipped to manage resources, plan for the long term, adapting to changing circumstances. The code also fosters a culture of continuous improvement and evolving best practices. The draft Nigeria Not-for-Profit Governance Code is important to fostering a more enabling environment for the sector. By promoting good governance, the code helps to mitigate the risk of fraud, misuse of funds, governance failures, which can lead to regulatory crackdown, loss of trust, confidence. Additionally, it positions the sector as a credible partner to government, to international organizations, including donor organizations, private sector entities, which is a crucial avenue for collaboration on large-scale development projects. Once they know that this important sector is actually also aligned with a best practice code for their own governance. From the foregoing, it is noteworthy that your active dialogue and engagement at this critical stage of the code development is key as we move and look forward to the eventual release of the Nigerian Not-for-Profit Governance Code this year. The success of this code hinges not just on its content, but on our collective wisdom and experiences of those it seeks to guide. And you are all here present today. By participating in this process, you are ensuring that the code reflects the realities, the challenges, the aspirations of the entire sector, including the peculiarities. Your insight will help us create a framework that is both practical and impactful, fostering transparency, accountability, and trust. Support the valuable work that you do. The work that you do in the not-for-profit sector space is critical to the Nigerian economy, and we recognize this. And I want you to view this as an essential element that will only contribute to your future success as an important sector. My hope for the economy following this stakeholder engagement on the Nigerian Not-for-Profit Governance Code is that we will see a significant strengthening of the not-for-profit sector, which plays a crucial role in supporting Nigeria's socio-economic development. With a well-crafted governance code that I believe that the technical working group under the chairmanship of Dr. Joe Abba has done, this will help shape the insights of diverse stakeholders represented here today. This in turn will enhance public trust and attract more local and international partnerships, funding, driving sustainable growth and development across various other sectors. Ultimately, a stronger, more credible not-for-profit sector will contribute to a more resilient and inclusive economy where the benefits of the development reach all corners of the society. On this note, I wish you all the best in today's deliberations and request that you extend my esteemed regards to your host organization as you return safely to your bases within and outside Lagos. At the conclusion, I want to tell the technical working group that please, let's leave it open for the purpose of today's dialogue so that whatever input, whatever contributions, we can also take it and contribute to the credibility, contribute to the potential impact of this code so that it can serve us all. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you.
Please make it louder for our Executive Secretary, Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Rabi Olowo. You've heard in the keynote address by the ES the important things expected of us as non-profit organization in the country, knowing fully well that we need to build the trust expected from the people, the donors and the likes, and grow the economy together, because our role is very strategic, germane, and it contributes immensely to humanity. On this note, before we go to the next line of call, I can see one of the partners of the agency, the representative of the Diamond President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. I have here the Vice President, Malam Aruna Yaya, MNI FCA. Thank you very much. We appreciate your coming. And my ES, I learned also that we have our revered past president, who is always very much present here with us, Alhaji Razak Jayiola, FCA. Alhaji, please, wherever you are, EC wants you in front, sir. I have the approval of the EC to bring you forward. You've been a pillar behind everything that we do as agency. Thank you very much. On that note, it would be nice for us to have understanding of where we are. We skipped that because the safety lady was not very much present. So before we go to the overview that we'll hear from the chairman of the technical working team, we'll go to the deputy and Mr. Sheyi. Let me welcome Abimbola as he gives us an overview of the safety instruction as regard the premises where we're at. Please, a round of applause for her as she comes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abimbola Oyekomi, and I welcome you to Lagos Continental Hotel. I will take you through safety brief. Lagos Continental Hotel is a building with 23 floors and 2 basements. You are currently on the 3rd floor, Grand African Ballroom. In the unlikely event of fire or any other emergency that could lead to emergency evacuation, please, on hearing the alarm, do not panic. Just walk out of this meeting room to the foyer. Can make use of either of the 4 exit route door behind you. On getting to the foyer, please make use of the spiral stairway. It will lead you to the ground floor. Or you make use of emergency stairway. Hey, after the elevator, it's by the elevator. It will also lead you to the ground floor. Please do not make use of the elevators because all elevators will be grounded. And on getting to the ground floor, please find your way to the left-hand side of the building, that is your driving. That is where the assembly point for guests is. Our incident marshals are readily available per shift in case of any emergency, and our firefighting and protection system are duly serviced. We have a partnership with Federal Fire Service Awolowo Way in case of any fire incident. We do not have any drill or fire alarm test today. So please, in case of restroom, just after the elevator is a male and a female restroom. Thank you very much. Any clarification or question? In the absence of none, please enjoy your stay.
Thank you very much. It's very much important we have understanding of the safety. But one thing we can guarantee you, because ES is here and all of us are here, you are all covered. And you know this is non-for-profit organization. The spiritual heads are here. You are all covered. So no shaking. So we'll proceed with the activities, and we want to have the overview of the NNFPGC draft document. And we have 3 people that will be speaking to this. 2 of them are online. The chairman of the team, the deputy chairman, and we have Mr. Oluseyi Oyebisi. The way it flows, the chairman will start the completion, because I don't like interjecting the flow. Coming up, going back, no. So we have it flow through. Dr. Abba, I believe you're online and you can hear me. Your comments, your taller jargon, once you hear his last words, since you are connected virtually, you proceed. And Mr. Oluseyi Oyebisi, on the completion of the word from Ms. Jargon, you proceed to the podium. Since you are physically present here, we need not to invite you. You are already invited and you're known. You give your own speech, then I can come back so that we can manage time, because we intend to make sure we finish this to time and everybody revert back, because the critical discussion are in other areas. So I open the floor now to Dr. Abba. After that, Ms. Ayotola Jagon. Both are virtually connected, and Mr. Sheyi, physically present here with us. You ran that session up. Dr. Abba, let's have your voice.
Good morning, everyone. Executive Secretary Star, ladies and gentlemen, let me first express my regret that I'm not able to be with you in person, but I have a number of colleagues who would represent the technical working group very competently. We were inaugurated in February 2023, and we're given 3 months to produce a draft governance code for non-for-profit organizations. Our TORs were basically two. The first is to review the suspended 2016 code, learn from it, take on board the feedback that had been provided and why it has stalled. And then the second item on our terms of reference was to produce a new code that would be acceptable to many stakeholders. So our composition, we had a wide range of stakeholders, including representatives of the public sector, the Federal Ministry of Industries, Trade and Investment that had inaugurated us together with the Financial Reporting Council. We had people from the organized private sector, the anti-corruption bodies, particularly the EFCC and the Financial Intelligence Agency. We had professional bodies such as ICANN, the ANAN, Accountants Associations, the Institute of Charter Secretaries of Nigeria, the Nigerian Bar Association. We also had representatives of religious bodies, the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs and the Christian Association of Nigeria. We had the umbrella bodies for civil society organizations. We had a very wide range of key stakeholders represented on our committee, and as you can imagine, a lot of the discussions were quite rich and robust. In the course of our work, we looked at what many other countries have done, including India, Ireland, South Africa, England and Wales, Australia, very many other countries. And we wanted to develop a code that was both scalable and aspirational. We were very, very mindful that one size doesn't fit all, and that people should be able to aspire to progress from one level of activity to a future level, particularly as the organizations grow. A lot of our work was based on certain principles, which my deputy chair, I think, will outline as part of our work. And it was those principles that guided the draft code that we've developed. We don't pretend at any point that what we've developed is perfect. We want you to know that it was a product of deep reflection, and that we're very, very open to hearing ideas about how that code could be strengthened. So I'll stop there, and I'll pass the floor to my co-chair, my deputy chair, Ms. Ayotola Jagun, to talk to us a bit about the principles that underlay the work that we've done, and a few other aspects of the code. Thank you, and over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to recognize Dr. Olo, the Executive Secretary of the Financial Reporting Council, and the executives and staff of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, as well as my fellow committee members. I just want to share my screen and bring up, okay, awesome. And just bring up my slides on the aspects that I will speak about. The chairman of the committee, Dr. Abba, has spoken regarding the philosophy and the methodology that was approached by the committee, and I would say the seriousness and rigor that was applied to coming up with this draft exposure document on the code, the draft code. And so I'll just go on to talk about some of the key areas that we looked at. Okay. Apologies, I seem to be having problems. Have to start all over again. Okay, that's better. Thank you. So I'm just going to cover the preliminary matters, the application of the code, and also board matters, and just give a highlight. I know the discussion sessions will go into more detail. But in part A, which covers the preliminary matters, we, again, I would not go and rehash what the chairman has already said, but just to let you know that there was extensive consultations, research, as Dr. Lowe had said as well, and we did some comparative research with other similar codes in other jurisdictions, some similar to ours, some a bit more advanced in terms of their corporate governance journey. The purpose of the code really is, we were very clear about that in terms of the instructions that were passed to us by the then Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, was to enhance public trust. You know, there's been a general breakdown of trust. If you look at some of the research that has been done on the trust barometers, that's done, Edelman's barometer, trust barometer, every year measures the level of trust between the citizens and the public sector, the private sector, and the not-for-profit sector. And the trust barometer for the not-for-profit sector over the last few years has been trending downwards. So there was need to really strengthen trust amongst donors, beneficiaries, and other stakeholders, and the not-for-profit sector. I must say this is not really just a case of strengthened trust between donors and other stakeholders as well. Risks down really because of within the organization, and we really do want our not-for-profit organizations who are doing such a good work in terms of meeting services and needs of communities that the public and private sectors are not meeting, to continue for a very long time, not just to continue in existence, but to grow. So there was also a need to, I guess, not just mitigate risk regarding money laundering and terrorism financing, but also to build sustainable institutions as well. There was need to also help promote effective governance, help boards and management of NFPOs understand their roles and responsibilities. Of different sizes can use as a guide in building effective governance internally. And then also there was a need to equip NFPOs to respond to changing conditions and emerging issues. We have a world that is fast changing. There are, we have issues of artificial intelligence, technology, change has been rapid. There are other changes and risks. We had COVID-19, which took a lot of us by surprise, and thank God for the intervention of the not-for-profit organization in that instance, of all sizes, in being able to reach out and play their part in helping, alleviate the equip NFPOs to continue to do the good work that they do in responding to the changing world that we see ourselves in. There's also no doubt competition, increased competition for funding, there's a change in government policy in terms of international development organizations, in terms of the amount of funding that's available to NFPOs, either through sovereigns or directly to the organizations. And so there's need to strengthen governance to be able to access the limited funding that's available to continue to do the good work, no doubt, that NFPOs do. I'll move on generally just to speak about the application of the code. So the code is very broad in its application. It applies to all organizations operating in the North and irrespective of size, type, and nature. Again, during the discussion session, I'm sure this will be touched upon. And we've made the application of the code very broad to cover all types of organizations. Now, one thing I must say is that the code is elective and operates on the basis of apply or explain. So the smaller NFPOs who elect to adopt the code are encouraged to apply the code or explain why various aspects of the code may not be applicable to them. We understand that it is not a one-size-fits-all because of the varying sizes of the organizations in this sector. But like I said, this framework, this code provides a framework for organizations who want to show a level of governance because of a demand from their stakeholders to be able to show that they meet at least the minimum standard depending on their size, and then are able to, I guess, there's no reason, for instance, why a micro NFPO cannot be applying the code at a medium level, or even the level of, a large NFPO, or a small NFPO cannot be applying the code at the level of a large NFPO. It really all depends on what your stakeholders require of you, and also as a governing body, the standards and the targets that you have set for yourselves. So the code has classified NFPOs as follows, and I won't go into the details, but this is the classification. Now, Part C of the code covers board matters, and it's really important in, we say that the stakeholder in the private company, for instance, the shareholders are the highest governing authority in the company, and they vest that authority in the board of directors. In an NFPO, it is the board that chooses and directs the direction that the NFPO is going to go in, and in a way controls how well the board is, or the governing body is how well they operate determine, I guess, how successful the NFPO becomes. So on the board matters, we have various areas that we feel all NFPOs, irrespective of size, should be able to ensure that it's covered in one form or the other. So vision, mission, and objectives. Organizations and NFPOs should have clearly defined visions, missions, and objectives. And the board and leadership of NFPOs are trusted to ensure that the vision, mission, and objectives of the NFPO are being effectively delivered and can be effectively sustained, and continually look at the vision, mission, and objectives to make sure that there is alignment in terms of the activities of the organization as well. And then adherence to laws. There is no doubt that regardless of the type of organization an NFPO is, the fact that that NFPO exists is because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria allows for freedom of association and freedom of religion and freedom to get together to form communities or to form organizations to drive the interests of that organization. And so it's important that not only is there compliance or adherence to the Constitution in your existence, in our existence as NFPOs, but that also other laws of the land are adhered to as well. And so the principle emphasizes the importance of compliance with all applicable laws and regulations, as well as the requirements of the governing instruments, such as the Constitution of that NFPO and the articles. And in fact, the reason why many organizations will incorporate is because under CAMA, and some may not, is because they have agreed and decided to comply with the laws and regulations applicable to them. And for those who are not registered, we say that they should also be covered because this ensures for the health and provides governing bodies. The cornerstone of the code is the establishment of effective board governance practices. It outlines guidelines, again, for board composition, the roles and responsibilities. The aim is to foster healthy NFPOs, culture of strong and independent boards, ensure appropriate balance of skills and experience, backgrounds and knowledge to help make informed decisions. And this code aims to enhance strategic oversight and organizational effectiveness. I've talked repeatedly about ensuring the health of the organization for long-term sustainability, even in very trying economic conditions and in a changing world. It's really important that the board or the governing body is strengthened in such a way that it can attract the right support from individuals who are volunteers, from donors nationally and internationally, to be able to advance its cause and meet the needs of its beneficiaries. I'm going to end here and just hand over to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me stand on existing protocols and thank the ES for the opportunity and also all the TWG members for allowing me to do this in their behalf. So I'll be talking about the other aspects of the principle and of course understanding that The definition of not-for-profit for us includes associations, trade unions, includes traditional civil society organizations, religious non-profits, and that's why you find that on the technical working group, you have as many of us represented as possible. So part of the principle itself, I'm trying to wait for my presentation to be projected. Part of the principle itself is also has to do with diversity. For us, we're thinking that the board of not-for-profit organizations would have that diversity of skills, that mix of skills that is needed for that oversight to be properly given in terms of board governance. Added to that as well is the thinking of the technical working group, which again is subject to your advice and thought and wisdom in this room, is that we're also thinking about financial sustainability of the not-for-profit sector. And the thinking around that is, we do know that as non-profits, sometimes we do not always have our finances to cover all of the things that we need to do. So within that, we're thinking about sustainability and the conversations around reserves. How do we ensure that we can continue to be an ongoing concern as not-for-profit organizations? So we have some principles around how do you save for days that you need, some resources. I mean, COVID has taught us a couple of lessons. The other bit that we do also have there is the thinking also, which the deputy chair has also mentioned about, the objects, the visions, and the missions being tight. I'm still trying to wait for my, okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the next slide. So this is the part D of the document itself. We have the part A, part B, part C, part D, and also part E. The co-chair already spoke to the part A, part B, and part C. I'll be speaking to the part D, which looks at relations with stakeholders, diversity, equality, and non-discrimination. Please, let's move ahead. Again, recall that the Constitution of the country allows that we should not discriminate at any point in time. So we're also within the principle thinking of disclosure and transparency. Again, the wisdom and the thinking of the technical working group is that as not-for-profit organizations, it is important that we remain transparent. And that is the value of a sector. If there's anything we pride ourselves on as a sector, is the fact that we are transparent. And when you look at the trust index that the co-chair mentioned, non-profits or not-for-profits are still more trusted than other sectors. I'm just trying to pride in that value. So we're saying let's enhance that value technically. Let's have that disclosure and also that transparency. And there are principles that we have listed there. There are general principles. Next slide, please. Then in terms of stakeholder engagement, because again, as not-for-profit organizations, we have vertical, lateral, we do it so that we can continue to enjoy that public trust. So our thinking here is that if we have a principle that situates stakeholder engagement at the heart of what we do as non-profits, then it's better for the goal that we're looking at the end of the day, that public trust. Next slide, please. Again, recall that I'm only providing an overview. I'm cautiously assuming that you all have read this document word for word and that you will be providing us with more guidance as we go forward. Next slide, please. Yes, these are all we have for the stakeholder engagements before. We all know what conflict of interest means, all right? And how sometimes we see that play in board engagements. So we have a clause there as well that helps us to situate thinking around what board conflict of interest could mean at the board level, and how this can be prepared for and also addressed when they arise in the course of the good work that we do across countries and communities in Nigeria. Next slide, please. Yes, these are, again, all of the recommendations that we have listed under that. The way this has been developed is that for each of the principles, the TWG, in their wisdom, their expertise, and their insight, and also foresight, they've listed some ways that we do think that not-for-profit organizations can implement these principles. So as you're looking at the principle, there are some thoughts that follows that in terms of, okay, this is how we think you can implement these principles as it were. And that would be all. So in terms of recapping, you would find that we have something on ethics and integrity and conflict. We have on stakeholder engagement. We do also have on, I think we missed that of the sustainability, especially that of the savings. Can you please go forward? On a lighter note, I like that part the more. And I was telling a couple of colleagues that now I can negotiate better in terms of the reserves. So that when my donor says X, I can say, no, I need that reserve to be able to do ABC. Yes, there's the accountability and audit and sustainability, all right? For us as not-for-profits, we pride ourselves in auditing our documents, ensuring that everybody can look at our books, and again, we're just bringing that back as a principle just to enhance what we already do and do well so much. So principle 8 is saying NFPO should take steps to maintain a balance between their financial, organizational, and pragmatic goals in order to ensure the long-term success of their mission and the trust of their stakeholders and funders. So I like this, and thank you so much for projecting that, because it's one of my favorite there. Now it means that, you know, I mean, if the code in your insight and wisdom becomes a document that we all will roll with, then we can now begin to talk about reserves. Because under this principle, we have that aspect that says, this is how you should create your reserve, this is how your reserve should be managed, and then we can start talking about who contributes to that reserves. All right, so on that note, I'll hand over back to the compere, who will then guide us further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is the overview of the NNFPGC, the code for the Nigerian Non-Profit Governance Code, and we've added. But while that was going on, we had one of the partners to the agency walked in, the president of Axon, Mrs. Fumi Ekundayo, FCIS. Thank you very much. We appreciate your coming. And I learned she's been accompanied by the Lagos chapter chairman, Mrs. Fosa Ewora. Thank you also for being part of this program. So we've had the overview of this draft document, and we want to have comments and presentation. It's going to come in two forms. We'll take the first set with the people I will be inviting to speak for like 3-5 minutes, the reaction to some of these things. Like we have the blessings of the ES that we should just expand these. Some of the reaction we're going to get there today will form part of a robust code that we'll have here today. So I will call representative of some of these organizations, these institutions to please come. We'll react for 5 minutes, and the TWG are here to note and possibly, it's not to come and react here now, it's to note so that we can have a comprehensive one. But we need your reaction so that we can have a formidable document that will stand the test of time, knowing the importance of your contribution to the economy. So I'll be inviting the representative of the Nigerian Bar Association. We have Mr. Salem Salem. Please, a round of applause for him. Mr. Salem Salem. Okay, please. Just have your seat. I will invite you. Be up there. I am being told that we have Tolu Odukale of the KPMG is joining us virtually. He will lend his voice. Mr. Ezekiel Dachshand from Anan. Can you please join him too? Up there. From Khan, we have Apostle Biodun Sonyaolu. Apostle Biodun Sonyaolu, are you here? Khan representative? Okay, he's joining them. So, I want to be very, very So let me also recognize the Vice President of ICSAN, the Company Secretary for MTN. The name, please pardon me, you are here very much present. Can you stand up for recognition so that we appreciate your coming? Oh, thank you very much. We appreciate you greatly. Thank you for making our time to be here. So these are people that I'm calling out here. We have from the audience too that will make some comment, and they are out there as a member of the TWG to actually pencil down, and if there are reactions we can have. So if you have people from CAN, the NSCIA, CSO, ICSAN, ICANN, and ANAN. I'll be inviting you one after the other. Make your comments and let's have your reaction on this draft document for the nothing of the TGW. Do we have anyone from CAN? This man here is on TGW. You can't be shooting himself with the document that he has prepared and the Bar Association. They are here to note, and those are the people. Do we have representative from CAN who have understanding too? Okay. The Islamic, okay. Please, let's have you, sir. Come over. Yeah, come over, sir. I don't want to put you there so that people won't be stretching back, so that we can see you as you make your observation. Enjoy the podium because I know you're a senior pastor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Tumi Vincent, and all protocols duly observed. Thank you very much for the wonderful work that has been done so far by the technical working group. I salute the sagacity and the output we have here, which is a far much more improvement over the last suspended policy book that we had. And I think we just want to address some issues here quickly. First, I would like to know exactly what you mean by adopt or explain, because that to us seems very ambiguous. Who do we explain to? I stand, by the way, for Lagos State, I'm the legal advisor of PFN, Lagos State, and I'm also the legal director for legal issues of CAN, Lagos State. And I also represent a lot of faith-based organizations and board levels. So the question we want to ask is, when you say that we should adopt or we should explain, what will be the basis of explanation, and who do we explain that to if we need to? Secondly, we want to ask, as regards your classification of different schedules of there's a small, there's a large, and I just wanted to check that page again when you had the definition of what constitutes the small or the large. We want to ask how it's possible that there could be a vacillation in terms of revenue. This year you are at 10 million, and the next year you are under 10 million because it's a non-profit organization. Your classification, how does it swing as well? Because I know for the micro, there seems to be some laxity in terms of compliance, but from the small upwards, they have, from what I read here already, it looks as though the compliance, it's a bit up is a bit up, the stake for compliance is a bit up. So I want to ask if there's a vacillation in terms of revenue generation, where do you classify that vacillation? Today you are 10 million, next year you are 5 million. You know, does that make you micro, large, and things like that? Then the other one that you want to ask is, please, for the effective governing bodies, if you look at KAMA, there are 3 possible governing bodies in an organization. There is the Board of Trustees, and the KAMA says that there may be the Governing Council. There may be the Governing Council, but where there is the Governing Council, KAMA says that the Governing Council must consist of all the trustees by law. I think section 836 or so of Part F. Now, when going by your own definition of the board, which board are you talking about? Are you talking about the Governing Council? Are you talking about the Trustees Board? And of course, there can also be the Executive Board, which is the Executive Board of an organization. So to that degree, we need some clarification so that we can understand how well to run this. But by the way, I want to celebrate what work had been done. Speaking for myself, I'm probably speaking for the many faith-based organizations. Well, thank you for what you have done. And by the way, I like to call on Mrs. Adegbile to please step forward. In fact, because please, Mrs. Adegbile, Dr. Adegbile, you want to step forward, please, to also assist me in this regard. She's a stakeholder in this issue. She comes from one of the biggest faith-based organizations, so she wants to speak to that issue. Do you have any questions?
Okay, don't worry, just step back. Thank you very much. Okay. Before we proceed to that, one thing we do at the agency is to try as much as possible to balance we're very sensitive when it comes to gender. And I looked at the podium, everything is hardware. How will the system operate when you don't have software there? It's failure. So please, on that note, I want to invite the Vice President, Ixan, and the Company Secretary for MTN, Mrs. Uto Wana FCIS, to please join them on the podium. Please help me appreciate her and welcome her to the podium. If the men are not clapping, let the women clap. Thank you, man. At least that will encourage her. So I just spoke with the coordinating director. We are to comment on the code for the reaction of a few people here as they note some of these things down. And we have 2 sessions of it. This is just the first time. And we have somebody who has actually come to react, ask questions, and comment on it. Maybe before I welcome any other person, let me invite you, Ma. Give us your name and the organization you are representing. Let's comment on it, and we have the reaction of other people. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Titi Adegbile, the National Legal Advisor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. I align my views with everything that Tommy Vincent has said, but there's just one clarification I'd want to seek. So, where, for instance, there is a conflict between founding documents of, say, a faith-based organization and the code, which supersedes. I'm sure you'd want to say, we know already. Now, if you know, we have been told from the code that you could elect or not to adopt the code. We want to have more explanation as to the expectation. What if my organization decides that we're not adopting? Then what? So are we going to have further detailed rules as to what, how, if, for instance, you decide you are not adopting the code? So what criteria will be used to determine the acceptability of my explanation? Okay, if I'm required to give an explanation as to why I am not complying with this, what are the conditions, what are the criteria that we would see? That's for us the main issue.
Thank you very much, the National Legal Council, for reading. Let me, on this point, too, invite someone from the Nigerian Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs. Do you have a representative from the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs? Okay, none. Okay, let me for now try to open it up. Maybe I give room for 2 other people so that we can have reaction. Okay, so 1, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I might truncate it because we have the second arm so that we can have a balanced view. So please, let me give you your number. Please raise it up because I don't like people coming up. The number has increased again. Okay. So the man in blue, 1, 2, 3, the man in cap, 4, the man in suit, 5 to that side, 6, the man white and blue suit, 7, 8, 9. I'll come back for you part 2 because you just crashed 10. So number 1, please can I have the second mic so that I don't stress them coming out? Please, I want to make an appeal. I'll be giving you just 2 minutes maximum. I have a way of interjecting. Please, 2 minutes, give us your name and straight to the point because we don't want to overbear. Please, the ushers, can you come take the mic? So give to the man.
Thank you very much. My name is James Ode. I work with VCare for Development Foundation. My comment and the question, of course, is going to be generic somewhat. Reason being that I only stumbled on this document this morning. Very quickly, having the opportunity to have worked with the non-for-profit organization from the community level up to the national, international level, I noticed that there are proliferation of such organizations everywhere. So does this code have any provision to ensure that it streamlines the registration of those organizations and also be able to capture their data across the country? Number 2, how do we effectively monitor the operation of these organizations to ensure that what they are doing, of course, is in consonance with what is expected legally? And then, how also does the NGO work align with the national priorities? It's very important. Then, lastly, a couple of years back, there was some discussion about having NGO regulatory bill that was discussed at National Assembly. I want to find out, is that thought still on? or this is an offshoot of that discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to appeal to others. We can restrict our questions to 2. Number 2, maximum 2. If they've asked your question, please, we can jump and pass.
The chair and the participants. My name is Pastor Dr. Barnabas Otoibi. I want to quickly remind us that in 2015, 2016, we had this same code coming up. That time there was a limit on the tenure for the head of faith-based organizations. And then after some time in 2016, it came again from 10 years to 20 years, and later it was completely suspended. And I was in the forefront of those who championed the opposition to that motion at that time. Now, I got this document yesterday or so on this draft for today. I found out in Principle 3, paragraph 2, and then line 2 on page 15. And it says that the chairman of the governing board should not be chairman of the board of trustees. Number 2, Principle 3, paragraph 3, item B, page 17. And it says, the chairman of the board should not be involved in the day-to-day operations. Now, let me quickly inform us that every faith-based organization, depends majorly and primarily on their book called the Scripture. In the case of the church, it is called the Bible. The Bible tells us in the book of Exodus, confirmed in the book of Hebrews chapter 5, and it says that chapter 8, verse 5, and he said to Moses, see to it that you make everything according to the pattern shown you completely on the codes that are brought by governments. Because they have a mandate divinely that put them into place. If they are not allowed to function according to how God told them to do, then they will not be useful to God and to society. So I'm submitting that, please, let there be a modification of that particular item, which I have mentioned here, that please, faith-based organizations should be allowed to function according to their faith, so long as they are transparent and so long they do things that will make everyone to know that they are doing well.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, number 3.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Alam, and I work with Spaces for Change, a non-profit organization. And I also am standing here representing the Action Group on Free Civic Space. So we have looked at the code, and we have some concerns. And the first is the classification of the different categories. I know that the annual turnover has been used as the yardstick for classifying the non-profit organization, but we think that this is still running the risk of one size fits all, because you can expect an organization operating in Lagos, for instance, to operate the same way as an organization operating in the Northeast, maybe in Borno. Some are into policy influencing, some are into humanitarian aid. If you insist that they operate the same way, you'll be running the risk of one size fits all. The second point is, we think that this code is also running the risk of overregulation. The nonprofit sector is already heavily regulated. We report to companies and to CAC, we report to SCUMU, we report to NFIU, we report to, you name them, PENCON and the rest. So are we saying that this code is going to replace every other reporting agency or reporting requirement that we have with other agencies, or is it going to run alongside the other agencies? If that is not taken care of, then I think this is an attempt to overregulate the nonprofit sector in Nigeria.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more thing, sir. The code also referenced the fact that this is done in pursuant to money laundering and terrorism financing risks. We think that if we look at particularly the recommendation 8 of the Financial Action Task Force, which is the international standard setting body for regulation of non-profit organizations. This code may not be coming based on those recommendations because it recommends that there should be a risk-based approach in regulating the non-profit sector. And we think that Nigeria has done a very good work in terms of regulating the non-profit sector already. We have a compliant rating as far as recommendation 8 is concerned. So are we saying that there are new gaps or there are new issues with the sector that we are trying to regulate, or this is an added burden? I don't know how to describe it, but we think that this is misplaced as far as recommendation 8 and regulation of the non-profit sector is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 4.
Thank you. Sikiru Tawhid Oladinde is my name. I'm from Nigerian Association of Evaluators, NAE. Specifically, I want to talk on monitoring and evaluation. I've gone through the code based on what I have here. I've not seen anything mentioned about monitoring and evaluation to help in the governance of a non-for-profit organization. It is very, very critical, most especially for the benefit of monitoring and evaluation, so as to ensure that donor agents, whatever fund they have collected from their various donors, are truly channeled to the, the target, and there are results for whatever they have expended. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Toby Olaito. I work with Sickle Cell Advocacy and Management Initiative. So I have 2 issues. One is in line with the monitoring and evaluation, and I would like to suggest to the working group if they can adopt a peer review mechanism whereby NGOs from different categories can review and help us ensure that things are enforced properly. Then secondly is the guideline 6.3, where it talks about gender equality and social inclusion. So the board should demonstrate a significant commitment towards integrating gender disability policy. Now, my emphasis on this disability policy because we have issues with mainstreaming of disability in different sectors. I represent a disability NGO. How will this be achieved, especially this guideline? And I think this guideline should be in Principle 4 instead of Principle 6. Those are my own submissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 6.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olali Kontijani, National Financial Secretary of Nasrullah Al-Fatiri Society, NASFAT, a Muslim society. I would like to make my comment on the financial management. That is Principle 10. Specifically, I would like to quickly read it up. The audited annual financial statement of the NFPO will be published after review and approved by the board. I need more clarification on this. Is the council expecting the audited account of NFPO to be published, and if where are we doing this? Are we doing this in the national newspaper or where? That's number 1. Number 2, I would equally like to talk about the assurance. That is Principle 11. Under this principle, it was stated that the financial statement of the NFPO should be audited by an independent auditor annually. I don't have problem with the audit, but I have problem with the independent auditor. How do we classify this? If my society obviously has some audited, has some accountant that can obviously audit the financial statement of our society, are they equally qualified to be appointed as an auditor, or it should be given to non-members of the society? Thank you.
Okay. Number 7. Think on this line, okay?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes. No. I didn't give you a number, please. That's number 7. I didn't give you a number. You are behind the scene. Please give it to the man in suit. Then the last 2 people are on this row. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Oderende Abidoye. One of my questions has been addressed. The second one is on sustainability. Having worked in an NGO environment before now, I discovered that once the project ends or the funder withdraw their money, they will lay down all the staff. And even what they have called to intervene sometimes suffer or back to square one. So I want to know how this code will address the sustainability practically as regards the continuity of the staff and what they are even called to do. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Number 8 on this row. And I have 2 hands up, please. Okay. I think you're number 8 and you're the last person, number 9. 2 of you on this row. Just hold on. Let me attend to the man behind the scene. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Sumbala. I'm the Executive Director of the Lagos Food Bank, and I first must commend the effort of the Technical Working Group for putting together this very beautiful code. And I am seeing a whole lot of positive angle to this and what it's going to bring to the third sector in Nigeria. And as someone who also very much struggled to fundraise, this, of course, is going to help us a great deal in helping us to address a lot of trust gap that we encounter when we want to fundraise. And also, basically, on the issue of sustainability, a whole lot of funders do budget funding, and they expect you to exhaust everything that's been given to you because it's budget funding, irrespective of whatever savings might be required to keep on the sustainability of the organization. So we can possibly, sorry, mine is just like a comment and I'll round it off shortly. So we can possibly refer to this code in the sense that this is what the code of our country requires in helping us bridge that gap. And essentially the fact that it's also elective, meaning that it is in our best interest to either abide by it or follow it, but I think it's always in our best interest because this helps us address that trust gap that we might be experiencing at the third sector. And just once again to commend the efforts of the Technical Working Group for helping us put this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last for this session, number 9.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Chimaobi Kenga. I am the Secretary of the Qatar Educational Foundation. I was standing on the existing protocol. I think I also appreciate the efforts of the Technical Working Group in putting out this code. Mine is a question and a proposal. So I will go straight to the equation. The first is on, people have commented on the scope and categorizing for NFPOs, the small, medium scale. I think the foundation to it is what constitutes receipt and expenditure, because I'm also in an educational space. Sometimes funds don't roll in, and you also have to charge fees. And sometimes it goes up and down depending on how the economy is. So someone has already spoken to that. Sometimes it may vacillate. So how do you classify NFPOs in that sector as well? The last, and then I'll make my proposal, is on the appointments to the board. There is a proposal in the code on appointing executive and non-executive director. In fact, it even advocates for more non-executive directors. And I think it's an attempt to treat NFPOs like PLCs or limited companies. It's a good attempt, but I will want the Technical Working Group to look a bit more into it, because already the space is a volunteer basis and we're doing a lot of good. Belaboring us with non-executive directors might not be in the best interest of NGOs, because every hand is needed, especially with regards to the operation. And then as regards to the proposal, is still a little bit of an advocacy for my own space, in the educational space. The 2021 Finance Act actually makes education liable to tax. For NGOs, there's a lot of uncertainty on taxation of NGOs in education space. The code has given us the opportunity to establish ourselves and then see how we could structure our board of corporate governance issues. However, I would like to also alert the FRSC and then the technical working group to be aware of this, because the Finance Act is making education liable to us. That is significantly changing the way we report and account. And that also will affect FRSC rule in that direction, just to be aware of that issue. That's my proposal.
Thank you very much for all the comments, questions. We want to give room for people to give little comments to some of these. Please, can you unmute the chairman, Dr. Joe Abba, the chairman of the technical working group? He has a comment, and thereafter I will invite our ES for a comment on the issues that have to do with application. So the chairman, please, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator. Let me thank all of those that have offered comments and suggestions, and to reassure you that every single one of these comments and suggestions were robustly debated within our technical working group. I have absolute confidence that my colleagues that are in the room would be able to address all of the issues that were mentioned, the issues about how do you treat variations in turnover from one year to the other, how do you treat religious bodies, what is the, are you applying the same code for, Joe Abba Foundation that just wants to give 5 people a scholarship every year, as well as an international NGO. So we debated all of these things at length, and my colleagues would provide information about that shortly. I wanted to just say something quickly before I have to drop off. I'm actually at a conference at Oxford University where I'll be speaking shortly, so I'll need to drop off very soon. But I wanted to thank the Financial Reporting Council for the free hand they gave us in developing this code. There was no interference of any sort. We're not asked to respond to any agenda. We're given a completely free hand to think through what might be a workable code that will be acceptable to a majority of people that may want to use the code. So thank you to the
We seem to have a network glitch from this. Okay, the chairman. Okay. The signal I got shows that there is problem with the network connectivity. Chairman, if you can hear me, our sincere apology. But we got the message.
I'm sorry, can you hear me,
okay.
Mr. Moderator?
Yeah, go ahead, sir. We missed you a few minutes, but you can go ahead. Possibly your concluding thoughts. Okay. When we reestablish the connection, we might definitely give room to the chairman. But let me invite the executive. Okay. The coordinating director, you have the mandate to respond to this. That has to do with application then. And in maybe 2 minutes, let the technical committee pick 1 or 2 of those reactions and we'll pick it up.
Confuse people. Finally, I just want to thank the staff of the Financial Reporting Council who have supported us in this work and continue to do so, led by Mr. Titus Osawe, supported by Mrs. Ezinwane Noruka, Mrs. Falasade Okediro, Mr. Ignatius Ekbo, Mr. Adeleke Adewale, and also to thank the staff of KPMG who provided some secretarial support to us, Favor Momo and Theodora Obiajulu, our secretaries that have worked with the private sector for some 35 years or so. I did lead the reform of public services in Nigeria, and I can say without fear of contradiction that the staff you have at the Financial Reporting Council are some of the best I've seen in the public sector anywhere. And me and other members of the TWG want to express our sincere appreciation to them for the way they've supported this work so far, and we hope that they'll continue to support it to the end. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much. We wish you a very fruitful deliberation. You can understand the fact that he needs to have a presentation and he must appreciate the support you have, from the staff of the FRC. So on that note, I yield the floor to my coordinating director. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. I know the questions have come in, comments have been received. Of course, we are open to more comments, speaking on behalf of the TWG now. I just want to say a few things on the issue of apply or explain. Generally, I'm sure for those of us that are aware of our NCCG 2018, we also went with a philosophy of apply and explain. Of course, that perhaps was a little bit clear to everybody. But remember that all of the things we are doing in the corporate governance space is all on, they are all principles based. And so whether you are applying the particular, in this instance, code, maybe on the financial reporting side, a standard or whatever, if you apply it, of course, that means you are taking it as it is in the code. But if you don't, because it's a principles-based code, it's expected that you tell us what you did. And that is actually what is driving the issue of apply or explain. But in terms of coverage, of course, Financial Reporting Council operates in the public sector and the private sector space. And even when you are talking about not-for-profit, as it were, they at least belong to either the public sector or the private sector in terms of general classification. So the code for us is applicable to what has been properly defined as public interest entities. So for now, let's not mix up the issue of apply or explain to mean maybe the issue of voluntary, mandatory, and all that. But what we can guarantee you is that, of course, the feedbacks you are getting from this whole exercise is expected to at least provide both the technical working group and the Financial Reporting Council what you will call more like the space to operate in. Like I had said at the beginning, which my executive secretary also re-emphasized, we want to accommodate all perspectives, as it were. We want to accommodate all areas that need to be covered to make this code something that is generally acceptable. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, our coordinating director. Let me yield the floor to, we'll do it like this. You take your perspective. Let me welcome Tolu, who is joining virtually. Then I'll come back to you. And let me come from that direction if I'm coming back. So I'll come like this, and we'll make it a day. So you have the mic, sir.
Thank you very much. I thank Mr. Titus Osawe for giving that clarification regarding the adopt, apply and explain, or apply or explain. Well, I think it's very imperative for us to understand from the onset that the code is an elective, it's a voluntary code. That's to start with. But we should also understand that this code is based on the assumptions that organizations are already meeting their legal requirements and obligations. So if you are meeting your legal requirements and obligations, some of these things in the code are things which is already been done. So that is the assumption. Now moving forward, I will be a little bit hypothetical. Hypothetical in the sense that, let's assume you want to build a house. In building a house, a regulator comes and tells you that we want you to put a proper foundation in place. So that at some point, if you decide to make the house bigger, you won't have to redo the foundation. That's the hypothetical nature I'm saying. Because the essence of this code is actually, if you look at the objective of what the code is to enhance transparency, just like one of the contributors had said,
enhance transparency, accountability, and bring public trust within the sector. Now, we also need to understand that every association do not necessarily need to be registered to be legitimate. So that solves it. If you are not registered, it doesn't make your business not legitimate, but it only puts a little bit of hindrance into what you can do. But when you submit yourself to being registered, then you have to walk around some certain confine for you to be able to build the trust. So that's what this is all about. So regard to religious bodies, this code is not trying to stifle or prevent you from doing any other thing. No. The code is just trying to say that if you've taken a step to register and you've registered, then, you understand, comply within the certain rules. And like Mr. Sawi had said, the moment you are registered, the benefit of registrations begin to accrue to you. You're able to get better funding, you develop public trust, people, donors, international donors, or people who want to fund you, because of your openness, accountability, and transparency, they are able to give more because they know that, okay, these organizations are organization that is registered, that is regulated, that is transparent, and it enhances the public trust. So that is the major essence of what the code is. Now, going back to some specific questions that was raised, Mr. Tommy Vincent, yes, Mr. Sawe has taken your explanation regarding the adopt. Yes, on the classification, you will discover that if you go through the principles, there are 12 principles in the codes. Those 12 principles have recommended guidelines. Now, this is not a bill. We've had some people said whether it's a bill. No, it's not a bill. A bill is something that is mandatory and comes with a sanction. This is just a guideline. If you adopt the guideline, follow the recommended procedures, then there are recommended guidelines depending on whether you are a micro non-for-profit organizations, whether you are small, whether you are large. And those classifications were done so that you don't use a one-size-fits-all approach. We know that with non-for-profit organization, the sizes are different. The sectors, whatever it is you do, are different. But there are some principles that is common to them, which is number one, they are voluntary. Number two, they are for not for profit. The intention is not to make profit. So with that, application of these codes, whether you are large, you are small, you are micro, in fact, if you look at the way the recommended guidelines are, we are being very careful during the technical working group when we are meeting to ensure that we do not recommend what is going to place unnecessary hardship on small micro organizations, which is why if you look at the guidelines, you will see for micro organizations that some boxes were not ticked, meaning that they can elect to take them. If, for instance, a micro-organization decides to publish an annual return, despite the fact that their turnover within the last 2 years is very minimal, it's an election. It's what they have elected to do because they want to grow. So with that mindset that, one, it's not a must for you to, if you're a NFPO, to adopt what a large NFPO is doing. These are basically guidelines to assist and make your organizations more transparent and trust public confidence and others.
If you permit me to interject you, sir, let me give the mic to the next one to you. I'll come back so that we can have a round. Right. And please, for all of us, let's note some of the areas we have touched so that we can cut across and don't reiterate on a specific one. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this is a very important discussion that tends to give credence to the work that Financial Reporting Council is doing of regulations. And I'd also want to say this, that it is also supposed to give backing to the not-for-profit organizations. because most of the donors would want to see how transparent, whether you have a support base in your country, so that they can also have confidence in interfering or interrelating with you in terms of supporting you. Okay, NASFAT talk about issue of auditing, publishing of their financial reports, and stuff. I think it is still to give your NGO, the credibility, the accountability and transparency in what you are doing. I don't think this court is overburdening you for anything, but rather to give you some sense of responsibility and belonging and a kind of trust. The deputy leader of this technical working committee, she said something about the rating of public trust. And when you publish your account, when you give accounts of your transactions with the public, it gives them the level of trust. It gives your donors the level of trust. Another person talked about the appointment of auditors. He said if we have some auditors in our organizations that look at our books, do we need to appoint an external auditors to look at what we are doing? Appointing external auditors is also categorized in the time of your turnover. I mean, the flow that comes in. And I know that when I look at that classifications and I look at the big amount of money that shouldn't be bothered to appoint an external auditor and stuff, I was like, this is a very big sum of money. But you could see that it's giving you actually a space. But even in that, it is still about accountability and transparency, giving confidence to the people you are dealing with, that you're not taking the money for your own personal use or something. And then you said about appointing either a person within or outside for an independent eyes. It is easy for me to make mistake and I will see the mistake. But when you have someone who is completely outside of the activities, it becomes much easy for him to see and make corrections. Auditing our documents are not looking for errors. It is only for us to see areas that corrections should be made, and also to have assurance and control, so that people who would want to use those documents for many reasons should have confidence in the documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before I go to, let me invite Tolu Odokale of KPMG. Is joining us virtually. Tolu, can we have your reaction, maybe 1 to 2, on the comments raised by our participants here this afternoon?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would also just like to add that overall, when we talk about governance, one key point that we need to note, which is one of the things that was a key principle that we consider in putting this document together, is that in governance, there should not be absolute powers residing on any individual. And that is why you have all this principle. It's basically to be able to say there is a system of check and balance where even for the sustainability of each of these NFPOs, that there is a system in place that if, as it may always happen, if a leader is no longer available, either by death or by incapacitation, that the system can continue. And that is the core reason for the principle bringing together this code as we have done. Some of the comments, speaking to some of the comments specifically, there was a comment about one size fits all, and I think that that there's a risk of having a one size fits all here. And I would say that that's one of the things that we try to work against, and that is the reason why you look at each of the principles and each of the specific expectations, that they are defined and described to be different for different categories of organization. Is essentially to make sure that we are not pursuing a one size fits all principle. On the issue of talking to the point about independent auditors, I mean, again, the principle is just simple to say you don't want a situation where the person that is responsible for preparing accounts is the one that approved the transaction to be made, He's the one that documented the accounts that was posted. He's the one that selected the vendor that was used and so on and so forth. He's also now the one that is reporting to you to say that everything is fine. That you need an independent person to be able to provide that perspective to you. And that independent person can, as long as the person is done, part of those transactions should be appropriate. There were also comments about publishing. And again, for registered organizations, you already have responsibility. They are based on CAMA, and including filing with CAC. But what we also expect, particularly for the large organization, is that you should have a website where you are publishing this financial statement. And the aim is basically to make sure that at least all your members, whether current or potential members, as well as other donors, can see clearly how you have organized yourself, how credible the organization is, and the fact that you are following some basic principles that anybody will expect, which includes accountability. And that is the reason for this. I'll just pause at this point so that we can take other comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tolu, for that brief remarks on some of the comments raised by people. I want to give room to the woman in the house to balance the act. The Vice President, Mrs. Uto Ubana, please, your reaction on the comments raised.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and let me thank the Financial Reporting Council for this opportunity, inviting the Institute to join in this very important forum. I acknowledge the CEO and the Coordinating Director and my President and other delegates from the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria who are in the room. This is a very important engagement for us because our institute champions and promotes good governance across all sectors, public, private, and not-for-profit. And so our members are practitioners, and so this is critical. I believe that if the intention is for any entity to survive for the next 2 months, for the next 6 months, then this arena is not for you. However, if the intention is long-term sustainability and survival and growth and transparency, then you should be a key stakeholder in this journey. Coming from looking at the diverse bouquet of entities within the not-for-profit, it is one of the most difficult areas to interrogate and provide guidance for. But I always say that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one little step, and we must not be afraid to take that step. This is elective, but you can elect to survive or elect to die. And I believe it should be felt as strongly as that. I will focus on Principle 3, which speaks to the board of, the governing board. And while we see that there's been a lot of room, even for the macro entities, it is important. Tolu mentioned that there must be a tomorrow. All of us, irrespective of whether it's a foundation, whether it's a university, whether it's a place of faith, faith-based entity, irrespective, we believe that we should have a tomorrow. And so succession and having that, the guardrails, having an effective and ethical leadership at the top is very key to surviving for tomorrow. So I believe and want to encourage that even where there's that flexibility, you should explore going above and beyond the minimum requirements to see how far you can go. Because if you believe that there must be a tomorrow that you want to survive over the next 5 years, and even more so in today's world that we live in, that you must go above and beyond. Abiding by the laws and regulations is standard. You can't operate in an environment where you're not going to abide by the laws. But what these guidelines seek to do is to encourage you that if you want to be here, if you want your organization, irrespective of what its objective is, and if you want to fulfill the mission of your entity, you should be around here for the next 20 years, the next 100 years. If we look around us, we should ask ourselves the question, where are those organizations that were here 5 years ago? And part of it is that they didn't have their focus in making sure that there was governance trickle down, and this starts from the top. So I really encourage everyone, all stakeholders, to work hand in hand. Let's not be afraid to go the whole hog in embedding good governance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I want to appreciate that. Thank you, ES, for always putting that danger balance top. I can see the feminine touch of saying tomorrow is only a woman that will look in that area. For we the men, Apostle, let's round it up the way it should be.
Thank you. Good afternoon once again. My comments on all the questions that have been raised, especially from the faith-based representatives here, are in two folds. Number one, I want to appeal to us to buy into this governance code. I'm aware of where we are coming from. The challenges we had on CAMA, that CAN had to take CAC to court because of some provisions in the CAMA Act. And because of that, I want to appeal to all faith-based organizations to free their hearts so that we don't judge this governance code with the challenges of the past from CAMA Act, to be specific. This governance code is a reflection of the injunction of God as contained in the Holy Bible. For instance, if we read Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, it tells us that everything that we do, we must be honest, it must be pure, it must be acceptable, it must bring good news. And what the code of conduct, the governance that is being proposed now, is just a reflection of what God wants us to do. A lot of people, they do have problems with some of our faith-based organizations. And if we follow this governance code, it will help us to grow more and grow better. It is for our own good. The code is saying we must be transparent. Is it not a good thing to be transparent? We must be honest. We must put the right people at the right position. We must open up for people to see what we are doing. If we are truly worshiping God in our faith-based organizations, we should not have a fear of opening what we are doing to the public. After all, most of the revenue that accrue to the churches are from the peasant people, are from the people. What is bad in us opening our books for people to come and see how those of us that are privileged to be their bishop, their reverend, their pastors, to come and see what we have done with their money? It shouldn't be a problem for us. It shouldn't be. So I want to appeal to all of us in the faith-based organizations. Let's adopt the governance code and see it as part of the injunction from God as contained in our Holy Bible. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. That is in an apostolic way. Permit me to invite the ES for a comment. We'll definitely take group photograph, then we can relax because we've been sitting for hours. At least take some tea break.
Yes, thank you very much. I didn't want to say anything before because I think the technical working group, they've done amazingly well in answering the questions. But let's talk about, very quickly, maybe 1 minute, about the core principles. And if you look at it from putting together the team, the technical working group, I'm absolutely confident. You know, in terms of the representation, everyone, from faith-based organizations, from civil societies, educational institutions, they are all represented. So what are the core principles? We're talking about integrity. Is there anyone who is against the principles of integrity? No one here. Is there anyone who is against the principle of transparency? I'm not sure. Now, on the how, that's why we are having this stakeholder engagement. We have exposed this document for a couple of months, and I said, even with some of the suggestions we are going to have today, we will make sure that your opinions, your viewpoint is taken into cognizance. Lastly, what is the mandate of the Financial Reporting Council? We are the conscience of regulatory assurance. That's our mandate, to bring out trust and confidence. Most of the organizations that will be scoped under this corporate governance code, they are public interest entities. I want to make sure that the interests of those stakeholders are taken paramount. We, as the Financial Reporting Council, we're going to work with you collaboratively to ensure that we have a code that will be acceptable to all. But remember, and I'm saying it very categorically, we will demand accountability. There's no bargain to that. We will demand accountability from the not-for-profit sectors, and I'm sure that with the caliber of people we have here today, there's no one that is against this. But in line with our mandate, we'll demand accountability, we'll demand transparency, and we'll demand all those key principles that the Code of Corporate Governance for the not-for-profit sector actually echoes. And I want to thank you all for this particular session, and we move into, I'm sure, even a deeper dive into the question and answers, and we can really move forward from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ES. Yeah. Please, I want to invite for group photograph, the people on the high table, please step forward. The president, ICSAN president, and the technical working group, please join them. I think maybe some of us will stay high up. Some will stay Madam Comfort, you are one of this team. So please, immediately after the photograph, let's use the next 10 minutes to move around. Let's interact, let's network, and take a tea break. You understand, please. Then in the next 10 minutes, we'll come back and dive more into a deeper discussion for the next 30 minutes. Then we'll call it a day. Okay, thank you very much. So please, let's use the next 10 minutes to stretch our legs, take our tea break. Then please, we'll be back so that we'll use the next 30 minutes. It's also an opportunity for you to network, and let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. A very good morning to all of us. I know we have a time constraint already, so I'll just do what I'm expected to do here to welcome us. In doing that, we want to recognize the presence of leaders and the representatives of those that we have identified as stakeholders. Regulations and all that is one very key part of identified as stakeholders would have a voice in the final document that is coming out. And of course, to lay credence to that, we would want to know, I want us to know that even as Financial Reporting Council, every organization and even individuals, we do learn from, call it concerns that might have been expressed at one time or the other. And that is why in coming up with this code, we started the issue of stakeholder engagement even from the very beginning. That is coming up with a team that is made up of those that you can say are stakeholders. A while ago, a team was asked to rise up for recognition. They are called the Technical Working Group. I just want us to know that as part of our engagement process, we actually put together a team that cuts across. In this Technical Working Group, you have the faith-based organizations, you have the CSOs, you have the leg of government. I know a lot of us here, by the nature of what we do, we have things around SCOMO and all of that. So we have as part of this working group, the EFCC. So right from the beginning, we have seen engagement, collaboration as a key thing. And as you will hear from my Executive Secretary, Chief Executive, the issue of stakeholder engagement is one thing that FROC has taken very, very seriously. So I want to welcome all of us on behalf of the Executive Secretary, Chief Executive, Dr. Rabi Olowo, and of course the management. We are happy that you are here with us. It is something that we want you to speak to. Feel free to discuss, feel free to express your opinion, so that at the end of the day, the document that is coming will have everyone's interest properly represented. And so on that note, I'll say welcome. Let's have a wonderful deliberation. God bless.
Thank you very much, the Coordinating Director, Society of Sasawi, for that welcome address. We are making progress, and we want to have the keynote address and the opening charge by the Financial Reporting Council, Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer. Please put your hands together as a welcome to the podium, Dr. Rabi Olowo.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this very important occasion this morning. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, leaders and representatives of charities, religious groups, professional, educational, scientific, research, literary, artistic associations, social and recreational clubs, political and administrative groups and associations, trade unions, civil society groups, and various interest groups here present, who together operate in the not-for-profit sector industry as part of our national economy. Let me also take the opportunity to recognize the chairman and esteemed members of the Technical Working Group on the Nigeria Public Sector Governance Code
and as well as the Nigerian not-for-profit sector code. Other guests here present, my colleagues at the Financial Reporting Council, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great sense of responsibility that I stand before you here today to warmly welcome you on this occasion of our engagement with key stakeholders in the Nigerian not-for-profit sector industry. I appreciate your prompt response to our invitation and the sacrifice you've made of your time and your presence, physical and those attending virtually at this very important occasion. As we go into the speech or into the program, I'm sure we would like to re-echo and reiterate how important this stakeholder engagement is. There's a history to us, getting here today. The Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, as we have come to know, is the federal government agency that is mandated by law to carry out regulatory responsibilities on all aspects of financial reporting, from accounting to auditing to valuation, and create incentives that reward those organizations who commit to embracing high standards of public accountability and good stewardship of resources entrusted to them. And finally,
OYBC on the completion of the word from the
Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, as well as my fellow committee members. I just want to share my screen and bring up, okay, awesome. Just bring up my slides on the aspects that I'm in, but also to build sustainable institutions as well. There was a need to also help promote effective governance, help boards and management of NPOs understand their roles and responsibilities. And when you have a code, it provides from different sizes can use as a guide in building effective governance internally. And then also there was a need to equip NPOs to respond to changing conduct. And so the principle emphasizes the importance of compliance with all applicable laws and regulations, as well as the requirement of the governing instrument, such as the Constitution, or
for days that you need, some resources. I mean, COVID has taught us a couple of lessons. The other bit that we do also have there is the thinking also, which Deputy Chair has also mentioned about, the objects, the visions, and the missions being tied. I'm still trying to wait for my, okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the next slide. So this is the part D of the document itself. We have the part A part as the compare. We'll then guide us further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is the, let me also recognize the Vice President of...
I think we just want to address some issues here quickly. First, I would like to know exactly what you mean by adopt or explain, because that to us seems very ambiguous. What do you explain to? I stand, by the way, for Lagos State, I'm the legal advisor of PFN, Lagos State. I'm also the legal director for legal issues of CAN, Lagos State. And I also represent a lot of faith-based organizations and board levels. So the question you want to ask is, when you say that we should adopt or we should explain, what's the basis of explanation, and who do we explain that to, if we need to? Secondly, we want to ask, as regards your classification of these French schedules of there's a small, there's a large, and I just wanted to check that page again when you had the definition of what constitutes the small or the large. We want to ask how it's possible that there could be vacillation in terms of revenue. This year you are 10 million, and the next year you are under 10 million because it's a non-profit organization. Your classification, how does it swing as well? Because I know for the micro, there seems to be some laxity in terms of compliance. But from the small upwards, they have, from what I read here already, it looks as though the compliance, it's a bit up, the stake for compliance is a bit up. So I want to ask if there's a vacillation in terms of revenue generation. Where do you classify that vacillation? Today you are 10 million, next year you are 5 million. Does that make you micro, large, and things like that? Then the other one that I want to ask is please, for the effective government bodies, if you look at KAMA, there are 3 possible government bodies in an organization. There is the Board of Trustees, and the KAMA says that there may be the Governing Council. There may be the Governing Council, but where there is the Governing Council, KAMA says that the Governing Council must consist of all the trustees by law. I think section 836 of Part F. Now,
please, let's start taking our seats for us to commence the second session. We intend to bring this program to close to time by 1:30. Those of us taking our tea, please, let's be rounding up. Those of us networking, we can solidify the networking via every other discussion.
Executive board of an organization.
And every one of us taking pictures too. Let's try and take our seats so that we can bring the program to a close to time.
What can be done? Speaking for myself, I'm probably speaking code of our country requires in helping us bridge that gap.
One of the issues that were mentioned, the issues about how do you treat variations in turnover from one year to the other? How do you treat religious bodies? What is the are you applying the same code for Joe Abba Foundation that just wants to give 5 people a scholarship every year? As well.
Let me come from that direction. If I'm coming back, so I'll come like this, and we'll make it a day. So you have your mics.
Thank you very much. I thank Mr. Titus Osawe for giving that clarification regarding the adopt, apply and explain, or apply or explain. Well, I think it's very imperative for us to understand from the onset that the code is an elective, it's a voluntary code. That's the start with. But we should also understand that this code, 2 years, is very minimal. It's an election. It's what they have elected to do because they want to grow. So, with that mindset,
it is easy for me to make mistakes and I won't see the mistake. But when you have someone who is completely outside of the activities, it becomes much easy for him to see and make corrections. Auditing our documents are not looking for errors. It is only for us to see areas that corrections should be made, and also to have assurance and control, so that people who would want to use those documents for many reasons should have confidence in the documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before I go to, let me invite Tolu Udukale of KPMG. Is joining us virtually. Tolu, can we have your reaction, maybe one to two on the comments raised by...
Let me thank the Financial Reporting Council.
Okay, please, thank you very much. Can we please start having a say? Those taking the tea, we can do that. But the rest of us that we've had that, let's have a seat so that we can call this second segment to order, take the question, then we can bring it to a close. Thank you. So on that note, to kickstart that, permit me to invite all the members of the technical working group physically present to please take their seats upstage so that at least we know with that we've actually called this program to order. Please, every member of all the members of the technical working group physically present here should please take their seat upstage so that we can commence this. And to our participants that are here, can you please help me encourage them by clapping for them? Let's encourage them, yes. At least maybe that will set the tune that we have started the game. Otherwise, we will continue with other conversations here and there. You know, comments, reactions, just an extension of the first segment that we had in the morning.
On behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, the 60th President, and the entire Council. We congratulate the FRC for coming up with this very important code. As you are all aware, the code is aimed at ensuring transparency and accountability in all our activities. Yes, the code has come. We don't expect it to be one size fits all. There must be challenges that stakeholders can identify for the technical TWG to take into consideration and ensure that all interests are well accommodated. We're all aware that most of these not-for-profit organizations in Nigeria are not registered, but the code provides for either you are registered or not, as stated in the Part B 1.1. The code is applicable for all those organizations that are registered or even those not registered to ensure that you have accountability in your dealing. Now, to do this registration, I will encourage that since the FRC mandate will not cover the activities of not-for-profit, but you are there to ensure accountability, is to have 2 layers of registration. The first registration is to register with your focal area of specialization. If it is a faith-based organization, they should have registration with the faith organization you belong to. Then the second level of registration will be as required by CAMA for CSC purpose. Because for some of us that are in the field of audit, we do see some organizations, not for profit, that are not even registered in Nigeria. They are all out to get money from the donors in the name of doing NGO and other things like that. It is only when the donors say that, okay, you must submit your audited account so as to see what you've done with the money, or they do project audits, because we do that also, that they now look for auditors and start running around on how to do registration. We're also aware that some of these donors, they have guidelines on how the money will be utilized, and that's what they call eligible expenses and ineligible expenses. So if an NGO or not-for-profit has any donation or raise fund from any donor, you must ensure that you have proper record and you keep good accounts so that you don't have ineligible expenses. And the rule of ineligible expenses is that you refund the money. We've seen some NGOs that are registered, husband and wife, and possible son and daughter. And they are the only people running millions of organizations getting money from international donors in the name of the country, and ensure that nothing go to the project that the money is meant for. So I call on FRC to impute in the code how the records will be kept. The sample of records, there should be an appendix on the sample of record, minimum record that will be kept by the NGOs. Then we talk of compliance with the code. Yes, the coordinating director have explained and is there in the code. You can apply or explain. But the principle number 2 has given room that, yes, you have your own rules that you comply with, but this code is to ensure transparency. So I employ the not-for-profit organization, either register or not, to ensure that you comply with the minimum standards set up in the code. Then the project monitoring and evaluation. Most of these NGOs are getting money for specific projects. Do borehole, do hospital, do cottage road and so on like that. The code should also provide for, even if you cannot go and inspect the project, there must be minimal returns that should be filed with the either CAC or any other regulatory authority to ensure that this code is implemented. On that note, we thank the FRC and thank all the stakeholders and those of us that are sitting here this morning for attending these stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the representative from ICANN, for your perspective on the code that we have. Let me also invite the President, Chairman in Council for ICSAN, Mrs. Fumi Ekundayo, FCIS, for her comments and contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished participants and all the stakeholders in the room. AS in absentia, I think he just stepped out to do one or two things. And gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, for us at ICSAN, it's a great honor to be a major stakeholder to the FRSC and also to be invited to this engagement forum to discuss the draft code for not-for-profit organizations in Nigeria. You know, I whispered to the ES and I said to him that this is an exercise that the FRC might actually consider taking across the nation, you know, so that it's not limited to only Lagos, perhaps take the geopolitical zones and ensure that the engagement is truly robust and as widely spread as possible across the nation. We at ICSAN, we commend the FRC for this, for its proactiveness in production of appropriate governance codes for all the sectors within the Nigeria economy. Of course, just like the ES mentioned, it is part of their own core mandate, you know, as a regulator to ensure good corporate governance practices across board, both in the public and private sectors of the Nigerian economy. So the importance of having a thriving and healthy not-for-profit sector in any economy is very, very obvious. The sector provides to all socio-political formation and communities in which they operate, educational sector, health sector, social services, amongst others. And these are truly sectors that are beneficial to the general masses and which government cannot fully cover. Now, the complexities of the NPF sector and its utilitarian value to the society definitely necessitates an approach of governance which is deliberately conceived and specifically tailored towards its sustainability. We've heard the first set of speakers earlier today mention sustainability over and over again. You know, it was mentioned that if you're looking at a short-term horizon, so perhaps you may not bother, but if you're looking at sustainability into the near future and also in the area of growth, in the area of having, you know, structures that would help, you know, accountability and credibility, definitely you should be interested in embracing this code. It's good that this kind of engagement is happening because we can then, the FRC can have, you know, feedback, and those feedback would also be helpful in making the code more robust. The draft code particularly aims at enhancing the quality and scope of governance practices in the not-for-profit sector, and it is another milestone in creating a universally applicable governance code to address critical governance issues in the not-for-profit sector. Expectedly, the draft code would assist boards and boards of trustees in management of not-for-profit organizations to better understand their roles and responsibilities. So it's not just about occupying those positions. It's important that those who actually occupy those positions know the expectations, you know, from them as supporting their missions and goals. You know, I mean, government is also interested because, again, just like the speaker before me said, those who advance or support these organizations from across the globe, what they see is Nigeria. They really don't see that organization. So you're actually also typically representing the country when you put yourself out there. So it's very important that we have a robust framework that would help to guide the sector. For us at ICSAN, again, I'm proud to say that we have consistently been the vanguard of public policy advocacy with commitment to contribute to the socio-economic welfare and good governance in Nigeria. And we're always at the forefront in diverse projects for improvement on all areas of governance for the public and private sectors. When the FRC, in accordance with its mandate, recently released the exposure drafts of the Nigerian Not for Public Governance Codes, of course, ICSAN is also a member of the technical working group, and we have also done our best to also continuously contribute to these drafts with the aim of further improving the regulatory environment. Okay. Well, for us, again, I want to just emphasize that as a modern progressive society, we must continually develop governance frameworks that will support transparency, that will support accountability and responsibility in every sector. And the not-for-profit sector shouldn't be an exception. Once again, we'd like to thank the FRC for inviting us to this stakeholder engagement, and we believe that these conversations would really guide the TWG and also the FRC as a whole to ensure that all different views and different perspectives are taken into consideration with a view to having a positive closure that will kick off the implementation of this code. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, President, Mrs. Fumi Ekunda, for that comment and remark regarding this code. Let me also invite Dr. Ari Udo. Dr. Ari Udo, you have the floor to make your comment remarks as relate to this code. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes.
Thank you very much. Please permit me to stand on the already established protocol. I just wanted to make a comment from behind there. I didn't want to be invited up here, but it's okay to be here. We already sent a memo to the TWG. We really want to thank them for the work that they've done. And I'd like to say this up front. No responsible government will allow any sector within its space to go unregulated. And to that extent, we align with the FRC's code, especially when the Civil Society National Self-Regulation Council is driving a civil society self-regulation initiative where we have a robust code of conduct that encapsulates those that have been that are in the FRC's code. It's about the governance, it's about administration and about operations, and about all the safeguarding principles and all of that. The only point of difference I see is the sustainability aspect that has been embedded, and that makes it really quite great, especially for civil society organizations, its sustainability. I think Uto Upana actually painted the right picture that if you wanted to look at the future, you wanted to look at your sustainability, you wanted to look at leaving a legacy and building institutions, then you would need to operate in, within certain minimum standards that allows you to do so. To that end, we align with the code. The Civil Society National Self-Regulation Council that I chair is actually driving, we are right now in the third phase of our implementation strategy to drive self-regulation initiative within the civil society sector, getting civil society organizations to adopt and implement certain self-regulation modalities and mechanisms, and one of them being the code of conduct. In fact, recently, we just came up of a review where we validated a model self-regulation framework for Nigerian CSOs, a hybrid model that looks at the working group and looks at the code of conduct, information service using the CSO Atlas that was supported by Palladium Scale, and of course a self-assessment tool that enables civil society organizations to regularly and continually self-appraise and assess what they're doing to see that it aligns, with the self-regulation modalities. And of course, our self-regulation modalities and mechanisms is hinged on the extant regulations of the country. The CAC requirements, the FIRS requirements, PENCOM, and all of those. And so I think that we're doing well in that regards. What would like the FRC to do is to partner with the Civil Society National Self-Regulation Council in the process of ensuring that civil society organizations in Nigeria implement not just this code, but the self-regulation modalities that they have developed for themselves. Also, if you look at the current constitution of the board of the Financial Reporting Council, you may find that, forgive me if I use the word, they may not have the requisite knowledge of the CSO ecosystem to be able to now regulate that ecosystem. And so it will be important that they get CSO persons into the board of the FRC if you really want to regulate that sector. It will be a good thing to do. And then I need to make this argument because I'm running from the understanding of the ecosystem of civil society organizations in Nigeria. There is no civil society organization in Nigeria that will get donor funding without meeting certain specific requirements. Donors don't throw money away. There is none. So if any civil society organization gets money, incidentally, the chairman of the TWG is himself the head of an international development agency, and so you find that his organization, they will not give any CSO money that does not meet certain minimum standards of regulation. So I like people to understand the sector. You need to really understand the ecosystem. And I'm seeing that there is that attempt to understand where we begin to look at the different, the grassroots organizations, the registered and the unregistered. Today we are having this conversation to see how subnationals, governments can register body corporates, all right? And so those are conversations that are going on. And I want to also ask that the FRC continues this dialogue because one of the concerns we have, and you would understand with me that over the years, there's been attempts to constrict the space, especially coming from the National Assembly and a lot of other organizations looking at regulatory agencies without proper understanding of the civil society ecosystem to come up with regulations that would do harm to the nation than the expected good. All right, so our take today is, having looked at the current code that the FRC has put forward, would want a partnership that will ensure that, especially when we look at the principle of apply or explain. And so if the CNSRC, if civil society organizations are driving their own code of conduct and self-regulation modalities, then if you come and you say, oh, if we're not applying that of the FRC, then we're applying ours. And then you'll be certain the FRC would align with, collaborate with the CNSRC to ensure that those entities are actually, implementing self-regulation modalities within the organization. On that note, the recommendation that we are making is for partnership with the FRC, one. Two, ensure that there is a knowledgeable member of the board of FRC who has knowledge about the civil society sector. Thirdly, that we continue having conversations going forward to ensure that at every point in time, we are all on the same page in the process of ensuring that the sector is regulated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's highly appreciated, and I want to believe it's well noted. for good collaboration. On that note, I want to open for the last set of questions so that I can have reaction from the TWG from this side. I started from this side the other time, so let me come from this other side of the class. Okay, so let me start here. Number 1, you are number 2, you are number 3, you are number 4, you are number 5. Are you raising up? Okay, you are number 6, 7, 8. I'll come back to you now. Are they jump and pass? So please, I want to make this appeal. Can I have the mic? And okay. Okay, I'll make it 10. This is just an appeal. Do we have another person here? Just go straight to your question. You all know your numbers, 1 to 10. Straight to your questions. Let's be brief about it so that they can all respond to some of our concerns, you know, that we have. It might be comment, but let's make it very, very brief, straight to point. Number 1.
Thank you very much. My name is Adiola, and I represent Bawani Godalo. We have quite a number of clients who fall in this NFPO space, and that's why we are also here to just learn from the FRCN and other stakeholders. Just for clarification, I need to be sure that while we really commend the FRCN for this code, I mean, we also compared it with other code in other jurisdictions, and we see that the TWG has done a very great work to come up with this. We checked other standards in other countries, and this is really great. But I just thought to clarify, do we have, from what we've seen so far, we do not have any reporting obligation. That's, I mean, NFPOs do not have any reporting obligation to the council. That's FRCN. Of course, they have the requirements to publish their financials and the audited on their websites and all of that. But in the near future, we know that NFPOs are not PIEs who have reporting obligations to the council. Do we foresee that there will be a point in time where we would not have NFPOs report or submit something to the council? I mean, this is something we also want to confirm. And also, I noted that there was a part in the regulation, that's the beginning, which speaks to shareholders. It said, if applicable. I'm not sure that there are NFPOs who have shareholders. I mean, it is a stakeholders engagement, and I can hear other people's opinion. But I know most NFPOs fall within the incorporated trustee in Kama or the company limited by guarantee, which have members or subscribers and not necessarily shareholders. So I'm not sure that function of shareholder would not cause future confusion by putting shareholders if applicable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Number 2. Number 2 is standing already.
Thank you, Chairman. The name is Ibrude Moses. I'm the National Coordinator of Independent Shareholders Association of Nigeria. My questions or comments will dwell on board composition and trustee. From the code, there is it's like messing up the work of the trustee and the management, the executive management. Is it that within the code, that is, there is this code, can the association or the whatever club or the organization derive its own constitution from the code, i.e., the constitution of my organization said trustee hold in trust of property whatever for on behalf of the association. Then there is T, executive management, that run the day-to-day, headed by management, that run the day-to-day activity. Now, the issue here now, if it is say the whole council must constitute both trustee and executive management, as is stated here, once the founder have overbearing influence on that council, that is one question. Another question is, the problem we have is in the implementation of the code. How would Financial Reporting Council implement it? That it will not, in the implementation, will not hinder the performance of the NGOs. Because we have seen in the first and the other the other code, where penalties have been penalizing the company and all of that. How are you going to implement it in such a way that from your own end it will be transparent? From your own end, it should be promoting the sector and all of that. How are you going to do it?
Okay, sir.
And finally, this is a comment. I commend all of the work you have done, the Financial Reporting Council have done. You are bringing sanity into the business. Whatever it is, you are bringing sanity. There must be, in the implementation, there should be a minimum, every organization have a constitution. And that constitution, one of it is an objective of that association or that club. That is what you said to do. In your implementation, there should be certain things you put in place. That is, there must be an minimum evidence that you are doing what you were set up to do. If you have a right, you are to protect the right of certain people. Are you doing it? What is the evidence?
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to make this appeal. I open the floor for about 10 questions, believing that we will not exceed 1-2 minutes. If you have to do that, we might cut it short, and I don't want to do that. So please, let's be brief in our question and comment so that we can bring this program to a close as soon as possible. Number 3, over to you, please.
Good afternoon, all. Ayodele Fanida is my name, from SME Fund Foundation. Some of my question has been asked, but I'll have to emphasize on this. And it talks about what is FRC doing to harmonize this code with every other code, with some of these other agency. Here today, a lot of people have been talking about, it's like we have replication, we report to this, we report to that. So what is FRC going to do to harmonize all of this together? Okay. Somebody talked about partnership. The CSO partnering with FRC. What's FRC doing to partner with other agencies and institutions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 4. Please, once I call your number, raise up your hands. Otherwise, I jump and pass.
Yeah, all right. Good afternoon. Yeah, so we've been talking about publishing and all of that. So I'm asking for the faith-based and also for other organizations that are not faith-based. So maybe I didn't hear well, but I believe that for those that are sponsored, non-profit that are sponsored by donors, I believe that the financial statement should just be given to them to review how the money was spent. So when you say publish, is it that we are just going to publish it to those that don't just need the information? Because I don't see the relevance in just taking it out. I don't know, maybe you can put more clarity to that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Number 5.
I am Dr. Adekunle Akinbanjo. I also represent the faith-based sector. I would just like to ask this question in series. Since it's Financial Reporting Council, what form should this report take? in terms of guides? Are we expecting a subset of rules on how the report should be? Secondly, it looks obvious to me also that even in this sector, we can do some sub-categorizations in terms of going forward. Faith-based organizations can create a template in which they apply this code. CSOs can have a template in which this code is applied. Can we have such for the purpose of implementation of this code? Number three, it appears also that there's yet to be the distinction of the role of the Board of Trustees and Governing Council clearly spelled out, because the word board keeps repeating itself through the code. We'll appreciate if the team can also specify if there's a Board of Trustees, because that has not yet been addressed and it was asked earlier. And finally, whether there is a conflict between the constitution of the NNFPO and this reporting council, this code, which one supersedes? Because based on KAMA, you know, the organization should be governed by a constitution. So those are my questions.
Thank you very much. Number 6.
Good afternoon. My name is Amau Jamio from NOSFAT. I'm the National Internal Audit Secretary. From the last word of the Executive Secretary, Dr. Luo, it was emphasizing on we demand that all organizations should get registered. And from my own experience, if you demand, then that means there is sanction that will follow. I didn't mention about sanction. I think I'm more concerned about this. Secondly, from what we have been able to gather today, I think there's more room. The Financial Reporting Council should give more room for participation. It's like there's kind of a gap between what the Reporting Council is giving out and the audience, the stakeholders that need to participate in these activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 7.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anirabu Oluwatosin. I work for Center for Citizens with Disabilities. And reading through this code, I see that this code, it's quite good. However, it may not even be for people seated in this room. It's more for people in the grassroots. And I feel that to make it very effective, there is need for the FRC to partner with civil society group and CAC to see how we can integrate it into company registration, such that anyone who wants to register organization understands the requirement and they have full grasp before entering into whatever business or whatever organization they want to establish. So rather than saying code that will just end here and the people in the grassroots might not have very good grasp of what it is, I think it is good to also put that into consideration. Then the second thing I would like to say is the said is going to demand accountability. And I do not see the reason why we are here seated to just review the code without also understanding the sanction. I think there is need to also see what the sanction looks like so that we can critically evaluate and give our constructive feedback. We don't just sign into what we don't know. At the end of the day, maybe we'll be expected to pay 1 million at the end of 1 year for not agreeing to this code. So I see that there is also need to also discuss that. And I see that this is also a sort of overregulation. We see the CAC demanding accountability, FRRS demanding accountability, and we are still want to strengthen governance. However, can we streamline all of this together and make one council responsible for the strengthening of MPO so that NGOs don't have that human power to finance all of this accountability? You file to CAC, you file to FRRS, to different organizations. It requires money, it requires manpower. I don't think we need to stress them. Please, have mercy on us. Thank you.
Number 8.
So good afternoon all. My name is Emmanuel Ikuli, and from Elexia Trust Foundation, also a member of Action Group on Free Civic Space. So a lot has been spoken about transparency, accountability, confidentiality. If you look at the Principle 9, subsection 2 talks about confidentiality of the funder. But at the same time, if we are looking at principle 9, subsection 3b, it's talking about that the recipient should open up in everything, be it even be the fundraising activity, the rationale, the fee arrangement with if a third party, everything should be disclosed to potential funders. These are not even funders, potential funders. Then it begs the question of confidentiality. Every organization has its own things. If we are telling us that we should actually be able to keep to mind and not release superior information of some funders in subject section 2 without their permission, then we on our own should also have a level of, that ability to also hold at least some information about ourselves, not opening up like that to everybody. Then principle 10, subsection 1, talks about that the board will ensure the annual financial statement of the NFPO is prepared in accordance with approved framework of accounting and financial reporting issued by the FRCN. It's also pertinent that we see such a template. At the same time, it's still repetition. We already have regulations a lot. Can we have one-stop shop that everybody, you can just go to a particular place and report? Instead of, at the end of the day, if it continues like this, we may end up doing the work of reporting instead of walking to the field to touch lives.
Okay.
So, last but not the least, we spoke a lot about transparency. I'm hoping that it's a word that we have used here a lot, but I'm hoping that charity will begin at home and we can also cue into the civil society code of conduct for the civil society, the particular code of conduct that has also the civil society have adopted. If we partner with them, I think this will go a long way also in helping the system work better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 9.
My name is Akim Batula. I work with Glasgow Fed as well as ISAN, Independent Shareholders Association. My comment is the draft needs to talk or address the jobs of officers of NFPOs, just like it addressed accounts and audit matters. The reason being that I observe from my experience the issue of financial literacy with most of these MPFOs is very much. Secondly, I understand recently that cooperative societies are currently being compelled to register with CAC before they can continue to operate with banking services. Is NFRC involved or aware of this? Thank you.
And finally, number 10. In front here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Efo Saiwere. I'm the chairman, Ixan Lagos State Chapter, and also the principal partner of Gravida Attorneys. So my question is just centered around the code, which is section 9.2D, subsection D, that talks about confidentiality, which has to do with ensuring that the NFPOs do not reveal the names of their funders or the identity of their funders without permission from them. And I'm looking at the aim of this code, which is to check terrorism and money laundering activities. So if you have that there, it's not going to be a bit of concern or problem for these organizations who may at some point may not even know the background to the sources of those funders. And where checks come in or investigations come in, they may have to disclose them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that the TWG have noted some of the comments, observation, and reaction of people. We open it up this way so that we can have a robust distinction. So please, the next 15 minutes, I want to have our reactions, 2 minutes each. Possibly you have anything to react to what, some of the comments, or your own distance, but we want to make it within 2 minutes so that we can welcome both physical and those that are joining us virtually. It would be nice for you to just mention your name and the organization you are representing. So I start with you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I am Yemisi Adiaga, the National President of Nigerian Red Cross Society. Mine is not operating under KAMA as established by the Act of Parliament 1960. I want to say that when it comes to confidentiality, it is the responsibility of the external auditor, who is expected to be a very, very independent person, to determine a lot of criteria by which fund is raised into the organization, by examining the records and being able, to advise or observe the level of transparency that is involved in the generation of funds. So if he, as a professional, he has a lot of responsibilities, and he's got to report accordingly if there are things that grossly undermines the provisions of the law. So since he's operating under the law, I think those aspects, the fears that we have in that area, is well covered. But I want to also tell us that all of us, from cradle till extinction, we are being regulated from birth. The provision for putting us to bed, for engagement before even we were born, for developing educationally up to even in our work and everything, we are all regulated. So for any organization to exist at all, there is need for us to operate under the law. And for NFOs now, we are talking of organizations that are operating in areas of gaps which the government may not be able to cope with, especially when it comes to our spiritual and physical being. Spiritual for faith-based organizations, physical for those that are really going into areas of humanity, assisting the vulnerable ones and things like that. So we have a lot of programs that are calling on us to be responsible to the people. And that's exactly what all these, the general definition in primary terms, the general definition of all these regulations, the code of conduct and everything that is coming up. And these are being put into use. I agree that we may need to involve more of people at the organizations at the grassroots, and be able to spread even to some other areas where the language you are talking or you are speaking may not be understandable to them for now. But all the same, all of us are subjects of law and regulations, spiritual, physical, and in whatever form. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, it seems you stood up the other time. Let me allow you relax. Please take your response in 2 minutes, then we'll come back to you.
All right, thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Ahmed Tundepokola. I represent the Nigeria Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs on the TWG. And it's been a very interesting journey since we started. And I'm very happy with all the comments that we have had here today, especially for those that come from faith-based organizations. One thing I know the TWG will do is to go back and take a lot of the questions and comments and recommendations and then work on a lot of them. But generally for us as human beings, as worshippers of God in whichever way, accountability is key. And I think that's part of what this is all about. We use the resources of people, we use the resources of other organizations, we do represent people as leaders in our various organizations. And it's just good that we embark on what we call the best practice that we can come around, we can come to at any point in time. For those of us who are Muslims, we know once you have 2-3 people, you must appoint a leader. And the Quran mentions accountability so many times. And And this is going to help us to now put structure or to enhance our structure. So I will pray that we wholeheartedly embrace this because it will make our organization to be better. I've been leaders of certain Islamic organizations, and I know what audited accounts do for us to be able to mobilize additional resources, even without any code. People just think that you are open and that you are accountable, and therefore they can trust you, and therefore believe in you, and know that you are acting with professionalism and integrity. All of these are core to even our faith as both Muslims and Christians. So this is just what my own comments and recommendations will be. The code has put together very fantastic to help us. Let's go back to our internal workings and see to the adoption of as many of these as possible. And for organizations that do not have any process in place, this will serve as a starting point for us to see, oh, we need to do this. We need to do this. And you see that the benefit is for us. It's not even for government. It's the benefit for us as individual organizations. And that's the perspective I want us to look at it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let's give it to your left, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I sincerely want to say that I am expecting that the NFPOs will really appreciate the work that FRC is doing and the effort making to see that we gain trust more from those who are interfacing with us and those who are working for them. But as it is, I know that it is not that you don't really trust them to do the work that they are mandated to do by laws. But it is just a normal thing that when something is coming up newly, you might not see the beauty of it until it is being implemented, and then you say, oh, this is where we're actually driving at. I want to just say two things or three that will help us understand that most of these regulatory bodies that you're talking about, all of them have limits to what they are doing. There's no clash in their responsibilities with what Financial Reporting Council is doing. Like I heard people making mention of federal inland revenue. Go and look at what is the work of federal inland revenue when you go there. Are they regulating you? When you go for SCUML, are they also just regulating you? Are they clashing in any way with Financial Reporting Council? When you go to CAC, are you doing the same thing with what Financial Reporting Council is doing? So let us not jump them together. All of these regulatory body or fuller enforcement bodies are not doing the same thing. They have distinctive different responsibility. Federal Inland Revenue is about taxes. CAC is about registrations of companies and your organizations. And then SCUM is about monitoring your financial activities so that it will not be used for terrorism and laundering. But this is a body set up for quality assurance and for transparency and quality control, which I think that it is for in our utmost good faith and in our utmost profits that will profit us between us and the people that we are transacting with them. Again, we talk about confidentiality. When we talk about financial reporting and publishing your financial, not publishing to the public. The organization that publishes the financial report to the public is not every organization. Are we together? But the person that gives you something in trust, it is also important for you to tell him how well you have kept that trust he has entrusted into your hands. That's just it. I do get the point. So it is not about, what am I hiding from? Like the man from the faith-based say, you don't fear when you are clean. And I believe it is about you just giving the account of what you're doing. Some of us in the finance or in audit field, you know that there are times that you run to us and say, give us an audited report, form something for us, you bring pieces of paper because you would want to gain confidence of someone who wants to give you money. And therefore we are saying, before someone asks you to bring your records for him to check, so that he can support you. Keep your records. Prepare them according to the financial regulations. Prepare them according to the laws of the land, so that whoever comes to ask of your accountability, it is there for him to check. Thank you very much. I believe that at the end of the day, we will be the one to say thank you, Financial Reporting Council, for putting this court in our advantage. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me give it to Apostle, then I'll have a break to online for 2 minutes, then we'll come back in.
Thank you so much once again. I just want to make a suggestion. There is a National Board of Community Development Associations. There is NEC of the Christian Association of Nigeria. There is Nigeria Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs. We have the CSO. And we have, I don't know whether I have something like Council of NGOs. That is a center base where all NGOs meet, and so on and so forth. I think it is necessary for FRC to take this good message to them. Those of them that are skeptical, by the time you explain to them, they will get to know that you are actually working for them, to make them better, to give them more money, to allow them to do more of their objective. Because once they do one well, some other people say, oh, come and take this and do well for us. Even in the faith-based, it will bring back integrity into the churches and the mosque, so that we can all see that what FRC is talking about is just a repetition of what God has told us to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let me take a little break from our physical participant. Do we have Mrs. Okewole Oladimeji online now? Is she online? Mr. Emmanuel Bosa of the Convention for Business Integrity. Okay, I didn't just want to make it a physical affair. Please, let's track those things and get back to me. Let me come back to the hall. Let me have the mic. Let's start from the head, then we head back to you. Mr. Sheyi, 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. I think my position will be that of a devil's advocate at this time, all right? And because, a code like this is both
I think when the mic heard devil's advocate, he had to break in transmission. So you can have the floor now, sir.
And I have Khan and the Islamic Council, yeah, so, yeah. So, hello. Yes, the mic is binding and casting me. But, when I heard the EC mention that we would demand accountability, I was cringing there. But then when I heard someone talk about the constitution of organizations, I had to look at the constitution of a regular organization. And I see that everything in that constitution is actually about accountability. All right? But where the fail my sector is, and I'm putting it at your table, the EC, is the fear of having to do just reporting. And I think within the TWG we also discussed it, and that's why we were very careful as to some framings in that document, right? Because I do understand we want to do good. Don't use regulation to kill someone that wants to do good. So that's where the fear is coming from. And I think if at the level of FRC, we can have something that helps us to be able to still respond to CAC, SCUMO, FIRS. In fact, there are 53 laws that regulate our sector. All right? So if there's that one way of addressing this reporting, because I do know that at the back end, you regulate our audits through the auditors. Okay, that's what we've not majorly paid attention to as NGOs. You regulate us at the back end. But how do you ensure that this is not burdensome? And that at the end of the day, it enhances the public trust. And I'm glad that these are associations here. So this is more or less a multi-stakeholder approach to this. There's MBA here, there's CAN here, there's Islamic Affairs here, there's Red Cross here, there's the donor committee, there's CS here, regulators and all of those things. How do we then all work together to ensure that one, these laws do not have principles or code is not abused, and two is that it does not kill good intentions. So that should be my own devil's advocate.
Don't off the mic again. Give it to the next one.
All right, thank you. You know, I like what the ICANN person said about ineligible costs, you know, for those taking grants from donors. You know, I happen to come from the donor side. You know, I work a lot as a consultant to donors. And I have been involved in assessing a lot of proposals for grants. You know, the sad thing, we all train on how to get the grant, but not a lot on how to manage. I have seen organizations at the end of grant implementation, maybe it was 3 years, for example, they've genuinely spent the money, but they are asked to refund 100% of what was given. Even as I'm speaking, I know what that is still refunding. So the code would help you to put certain things in place, because the reason for refunding, interestingly, normally is not because of big things, all right? So, for example, separation of duties, when you come to approval, who signs the check, who approves? Little things. So for me, I think, in fact, the code, even if you don't subscribe to it, my tip would be you quietly use it. It's going to be out there in the public, you know, as a checklist, you know, as was said earlier by, I think, our co-chair, to make sure that you maintain the health of your organization. It is very useful. And Oga Harry, thank you for mentioning the issue of partnership. I actually was going to have a discussion with you and Oga Titus after this event, because when I was going through the code again last night, I was keeping in mind what Oga Harry has said before, that this code is a bit similar, almost the same as the CSO Code of Corporate Governance. But I noticed one fundamental difference. I think Oga Harry also mentioned that. Yes, the Code of Conduct that the CSOs put together has principles and a little bit of summaries maybe of the guidelines. But this code has the details that would even help you to implement more those principles. So there's a need for FRC and the CSO, National Self-Regulation Council, to work together in implementing this. So I think that's what would be my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead, sir.
I'd like to start with the very easy ones. There's a lot that I would like to comment on. The first one is the concern about banks directing corporate societies to come and register with the Corporate Affairs Commission. That is wrong, because under the Nigeria Cooperatives Act, cooperatives are body corporates. So they're already incorporated. If you're coming to CAC, are you going to reincorporate an incorporated entity? So we don't have that framework at CAC. We don't register cooperatives. I think the problem here is a knowledge gap, really. And we cannot pretend to, as regulators, to know everything. So we find some of our sister agencies assuming that everything is everything. Okay, this same thing played out when the CBN directed banks then to kind of freeze accounts of associations that were opened, suggesting that they were incorporated with CAC until they regularized. Now, the banks interpreted it wrongly. So it took a while before that was clarified. This same thing, this same issue you are talking about, I mean, I heard it about 2 years ago. We were able to somehow get banks to understand it. Now it's coming up again. It is wrong. Please, if they do that, insist. The other one is about, I've heard a lot of talk about gray areas between the role of the board of the trustees and that of the governing council. In fact, I heard it said here that there's no definition, or we are not clear about what we mean by board. But if you had gone through the preliminary part A of this document, you would have seen a definition for board. And that definition says that board will mean any body or group of persons who provide strategic direction for the organization by whatever name called. Now, by whatever name called was necessary because, as we have agreed here, as we have mentioned, there are organizations that are not registered. They can decide to call that body any name. But in the case of those registered under the Companies and Allied Matters Act, two forms of registrations, either as companies limited by guarantee or incorporated trustees. Now, that is clear. The board refers, in the case of companies limited by guarantee, to board of directors. And in the case of incorporated trustees, to the board of trustees. This is clearly stated here. So anywhere you see the board, situate it in your situation. Who plays this role? That is the board. Now, coming to the role of the board and the role of the governing council. I think Dr. Adekola mentioned something like that, referred to earlier concerns, and Mr. Moses Ubrude also alluded to that. Now, to understand this distinction, you have to check several sections, a few sections in the CAMA. Notably, look at, when you get here, you can look at that, so that you don't take my word just for it. You look at section 827, you look at section 830, you look at section 836 and 837. Now, let us start with the governing board. In the case of associations whose trustees are incorporated, and let us also understand this distinction. Part F does not incorporate associations. It incorporates trustees of associations. Now, what that means is that the association itself is not incorporated, it's not a body corporate. It is the trustees that are incorporated into a body corporate. Now, this is different from CSOs that are registered or NGOs that are registered under Part B as companies limited by guarantee. It is the association. Association is used there to refer to people coming together. It is the association, the members, that are incorporated into a body corporate. And that is why for companies can, in their own right, enter into contracts in their names. But for incorporated trusts, the associations do not have a corporate status, legal personality. And that's why the trustees have to do what a body corporate would have done if they were incorporated for them. Now, governing council or governing board is not mandatory for incorporated trustees. It is a choice. Section 836 says where an association has that. But that section goes on to say again that where you decide to have governing council or board, all trustees, every one of them, must be part of that governing board. And when the association creates a governing board, it is at the association's discretion what functions, management, and administrative functions that it will assign to that governing body. But a clear divide, what clearly tells you the hierarchical relationship between the governing council and the board of trustees is section 837. And what does that section say? The section says that the board of trustees, the trustees, would exercise their powers as vested in them by the act, not by any other authority, by the act, in accordance with the directions of either the association or the governing council. So if the trustees act under the direction of the governing council, what that tells us is that the governing council is superior to the trustees. And with that understanding, just a moment, sir, that was why this code recommends that in case of incorporated trustees where you have a governing council, the chairman of the governing council should not be the chairman of the board of trustees. I think we've heard enough on separation of powers and checks and balances to explain that the rationale for that recommendation.
And finally,
now, I just remember, sir. Okay, you want me to stop?
And finally, I just need to manage that time.
Okay, I'm going to, okay, sorry. Yes, I'm
finally.
Going to, okay. Yeah. Okay. So, then the other one I want to mention, I want to support the request, so to say, for a one-stop point for financial statements for regulators. Now, I'm saying this with benefit of hindsight. It's something that we have experienced at the CAC years back. And I believe that at some point, FRC was suggesting something like that. I don't know whatever happened to that idea. So perhaps FRC can champion that. Now, I'm not talking about annual returns. You must still submit your annual returns to CAC. Doesn't matter, anyone stop. Okay? Now, what I'm talking about is the financial statements that accompany the annual returns. We had a case way back in 2006, thereabout, of a company in the telecoms industry that submitted a different financial statement, audited to CAC, a different one to FRS, and a different one to NCC. Again, you understand why. I mean, the incentive for them is because the objectives are different. For tax purposes, you want to bring it down so you don't pay much. For NCC, you want it to be what it is. For CAC, you want it to be up because of prospective or potential investors. People want to come and say, okay, how are you doing? You come to CAC, you see that, we're doing well, so you attract more funding. But if we had something like this, or if we have it, it will help mitigate such likelihood. You know, it will help control such situations. If we can just drop the financial statement with maybe FRCN or CAC, and then every other agency that needs it will come, the FRS will come pick it, FRCN will come pick it. And then finally, I'm compelled to also lend my voice to Pastor and Imam. Forgive me for giving you those labels. Yeah. Now, I read the Bible and I see that the separation of offices, right, and the division of leadership, really, whether as a head of spiritual head or administrative head, because that is why we seem to be having issues with religious, the faith-based and culture-based associations. It's because they have dual leadership. There are dual leaderships. There is spiritual leadership. And then there is the administrative leadership. Now, you have issues when both coincide in one person. And when that happened, when it was causing a problem, don't forget that one of the critical considerations for sustainability for CSOs is beneficiary satisfaction. If what you are doing does not satisfy the beneficiaries, or the beneficiaries are not getting dividends of what you have come out to do, you may lose funding, and then you lose trust and support. Now, I remember when I read the Bible, Acts chapter 4, that at a point, the apostles became overwhelmed with what they call minding the table. Now, that is administrative. Now, that is the trustees' assets, properties, and all of that. And then the primary purpose for their calling, which was preaching the gospel, suffered. And then they had to call and say, do you know what? we cannot abandon the altar for the table. So we would leave the table, which will be something like trustees now minding the table. Table will mean properties, assets, and interest of the associations. You do that. That was where Stephen and all others came in, right? My Bible, yeah, I did Bible knowledge, okay. So that was how they came in. And then the apostles went back to managing the spiritual calling. That is the same thing that is advocated here. Nobody, no law can remove a spiritual leader from office. We agree it's God that called you. It's not government. It's not CAC. Answer to God. But when you have come to register under CAC, and by virtue of that registration, all the assets and properties and interest of that association is vested in you, not even in the governing council. Which means, if you can convince the governing council or the association that want to sell, they'll say, go and sell. You are the one that will sign and all of that. You didn't have those powers. You had them because CAC registered you. You cannot come to government or come to the system to take those benefits and say you will not take the responsibilities that go with them.
Thank you very much. This is a very well explicit explanation, coming from regulators themselves, CSC. Please, I know as MBA, is straight to point, yes, and we'll end it up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, of course, we have gone through the code. And I will say without any equivocation that the FRC is not set out to do anything that is inordinate. Now, a lot of us seems we did not read the preamble of what the objective of the code is. And for that benefit, in closing, I'll just let us know that the TW group, when we came up together, we couched this objective, which explains whatever fears you all had. That number one is to enhance the fulfillment of the overall mandate of organization so that they can achieve their intended outcomes for their communities and citizens, as well as render better services to users and key stakeholders. Two, be a useful tool for boards and management of organizations, enabling them to operate in an effective, efficient, transparent, and ethical manner. Three, promote a culture of trust between organizations and their stakeholders and create incentives that reward those organizations who commit to embracing high standards of public accountability and good stewardship of resources entrusted to them. And last but not the least, enhance the sustainability of organizations amongst others. Now, this sums it all. So all we need to do is to open up our mind. All the FRC is doing is akin to saying, rather than standing on one leg, stand on both legs so that it can be solid. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please let me welcome Mrs. Okewale Oladimeji, a member of the TWE group, to please have a comment in 2 minutes. Mrs. Oladimeji, please.
All protocols observed. I was muted earlier. I was listening, but I couldn't join you in talking. We appreciate the members of the audience who are here today, who have taken time to come. We appreciate all this feedback. The engagement of today is merely to make sure that we have all bases covered. I need to say that the technical working group, what we have been concerned about is sustainability, accountability, transparency, and integrity at all times. As a member of IGAN and a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, it behoves on us to make sure that corporate governance is instilled in everything that we do. And therefore, it is necessary for us that look into the future, we must ensure that there's good governance. The not-for-profit organizations or entities, they're just too many. Different, diverse backgrounds, different, diverse services. And so it's difficult for us to say one size fits all. And that is when we brought in the scalability. But we have heard and we have listened, and we will go back and ensure that the draft that is still in its formative stages can encompass as much as possible that which you have said, those who have spoken, those who have written in, those who have given us private feedbacks. We hear you all. and we shall try our best to see that we reach something that will be good, acceptable, and full of the governance that would lead us into the future. Sustainability is important. Thank you so much. I have to be brief.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oladimeji, for that contribution. We've heard all the comments. We've heard reactions from the TWG group on some of the things. One, we can assure have been taken, and we will definitely work on this. So to round it up before we go to vote of thanks is the next step. And just to give us the insight to this from the Federal Financial Reporting Council, is the Coordinating Director of Corporate Governance and Inspection and Monitoring, Mr. Titus Osawe, as he gives the next steps in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Okay, I think I will just start with thanking Mrs. Okewale. She has actually started off on the next steps. Next step meaning what are we going to do after now? Of course, we will ensure that we put all our comments, the responses that we have gotten to all the questions asked. There are things that we're going to put together. And remember, too, that when the ES was making his taking his keynote address, he did say that, yes, the exposure period had lapsed, but for the sake of this, we are still giving. So please, we want to encourage as many of us that are here, if we have written comments, please let's send it in so that at least we can consider all of that as the technical working group put things together to ensure that the final document that we are coming up with, just like I also said at the beginning, takes into consideration all the comments and all the concerns that have been expressed here. Having said that, of course, the next thing you will get to know. I know the president of ICSAN did say something about going around the country, the geopolitical zones and all of that. We will find a way to get all that put in either now or when the document has come out. So the next thing that will come up is the issue of the release. And of course, we will all be carried along when that comes up. Now, a few things that FRC would like to speak to very quickly, starting with the issue of what we call repository. We know that that has been a concern where you have so many financial statements all over the place because people tend to want to, as much as possible, answer to whichever regulator that they need to file with. So FRC is strong on that. We want to have a repository where all annual financial statements, audited as it were, are sent in. Of course, it will all be digitalized. And then other regulators will have access so that at the end of the day, we are just having one financial statement that all of us are looking at for whatever purpose. So we are hoping that we'll get that done as quickly as possible. Not to belabor the issue of, call it reporting now. Sorry, I think I used the word reporting responsibility to FRC. All of this that we are doing, I recall Dr. Udo did say something that the government, anywhere, there's no way the government will, just leave the issue of key operatives, so to speak, without finding a way to carry out some bit of regulation. And of course, that is essentially what we are doing here. Yes, we know that various sectors have interventions by way of regulation. Some of them are self-regulatory and all of that. But at some point, of course, you would expect a responsible government, let me use that word, to at least, come in and bring in some regulations, at least to have a way of managing what happens in that space. Remember, each time we talk about corporate governance or whatever, coming up with a code, it is that you are putting in place the appropriate structures that will guarantee a future for that particular institution. That is what the FRC is doing, and that is why my chief executive said we will hold us accountable. It's not just FRC. Even the stakeholders that we are talking about, you are also interested in what those that perhaps you have relationships with are doing with whatever you are giving to. So the stakeholders are also interested in the accountability status of all of the institutions that we are talking about here. So it's not all about sanctions. It is to guarantee a situation where 20 years down the line, 50 years down the line, we will still have that same organization that you were proud to be a part of standing. That is the essence of corporate governance. That's why they always say that it is a journey. It is not something that you rush into. You just want a situation where in another 50 years, that same organization, at least will still be in existence when the actors would have also gone. So on that note, I would like to say, for us as FROC, we will interface with us as much as possible, and in a very short time, before the end of this year, hopefully, we will be able to come up with what we will then call no longer a draft code, but a code of good governance for the not-for-profit sector. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Coordinating Director. Somebody requested, and I'm sure a lot of us are asking, if we need to communicate with FRC, do we have an email to reach out to them? I'm being told that that will be projected, on the screen as we continue as we proceed to bring the program to a close. There's something that was being emphasized, the area of cooperative society, getting registered with CAC. Please, you've heard from the man from CAC. You need to have deeper understanding that cooperative society has their own act, where they have their regulation, and you can always communicate and revert back if you meet some of these bottlenecks. So the email will be projected, and we can move on because our time is fast spent. On that note, let me invite the Directorate of Corporate Governance, Mrs. Comfort Osondo, for the vote of thanks. Then we can bring this program to a close. Mrs. Osondo.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude today's stakeholder engagement on the draft Nigeria Not-for-Profit Governance Code, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you, for every group represented here, for your active participation and invaluable contributions. We have members online, and we have members also following on YouTube and dropping comments. We are grateful for the passion you've shown. And you can rest assured that even though you were not heard here, every single comment has been taken into consideration and will be addressed. The ES, our ES and CEO, my ES and CEO, Dr. Rabiu Olowo, and our special guests here, the President of ICSAN, Mrs. Fumi Ekundayo, the Vice President of ICSAN, Mrs. Uto Upana, the Chairman of Lagos State Chapter of ICSAN. I have to say those ones because they are my cover. Thank you so much for not only attending, but for graciously being patient enough to stay to the end of the program and contributing to the dialogue. They represented various stakeholder groups. Our TWG members, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate everything you've done. I have to say here that this group was inaugurated February 9th, 2023, and before May 2023, this document was ready. It's not that they rushed it. They did excellent and detailed work to produce what is before you today. Thank you so much, every member of the TWG. Our FRC management team, the head of finance, who paid for everything here, thank you very much. The head of IT, who is responsible for all this, thank you very much. My coordinating director, Mr. Titus Osawe, coordinating director of inspections and monitoring and corporate governance, thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Our legal team headed by Mrs. Noruka, thank you so much for your participation. Every other member of the management team, Deputy Director, Corporate Communications, Mr. Felix Azubike, thank you so much for putting all this together. Corporate governance team, apart from me, there are just two other gentlemen. Thank you so much, Collins and Ignatius, for putting all this together. We're deeply grateful. Every member of all the participants here today, we want to thank you for your patience in staying to the end. I don't think it's because of lunch. I think it's because it was interesting. And I appreciate that very much. Everything that's been done here today, you can rest assured that it's been taken into consideration. The members of the TWG are still going to look at it. And before the document is eventually unveiled, we believe your input will be reflected. Without our MC, Mr. Olusegun, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please, can we put our hands together for him? Those responsible for our media and the beautiful branding and the management of this hotel, thank you all so much. And God bless you all as you go back to your destinations.
Please, a round of applause for the Directorate of Corporate Governance, Mrs. Osondo. Thank you for thanking us. On the final note, you are here. I want to give you this takeaway. The registration team of FRC are outside. You have 2 tables out there to my right-hand side once you come out. You want to make inquiry about registration on the issue of your revalidation of your registration and lots of other things that you need to do. They are out there to provide the service for you. At least that's one takeaway from here, so that it won't just be that you are here and you are still struggling to go back to Ikeja office to confirm. Just get in there, make your inquiry, do all that is needful, and I'm sure they will attend to you promptly. I want to appreciate you all, lending my voice to say thank you for making it out. Like I said at the beginning of it, if you can come out with the current situation of the fuel crisis that we have, it shows that you are passionate about this. Please, a round of applause for yourself. Celebrate yourself, don't celebrate MC. Just clap for yourself. Yeah, thank you very much. And on that note, we have come to the end of this stakeholders engagement. May I humbly request that we remain upstanding as we take the first stanza of our national anthem. Thank you very much. That is the end of the program. We have our lunch serve on the second floor. Thanks for making our time. We appreciate it greatly.
Thank you.